Thank you so much. Welcome back to Kevin Pollak's Chat Show. I am remarkably Chat Show. How are you? You don't write, you don't call. What the fuck do I have to do? It's contact@kevinpollakschatshow.com. Is that so much to ask? Hey, here's a question for you. Why so much attitude on a Sunday afternoon? What the hell is my problem? Sammy, do you have any idea?
Well, I know you traveled this week. That's always unsettling.
I did Chicago flight there and back in 8 hours.
Yeah.
That was fun.
That was great.
A little color correcting. Oh, there we are on the live screen.
Oh.
Yeah, it was, I try to complain about it, and I realize, A, no one cares.
Well.
B, no one cares.
Oh.
And C, no one cares.
No one cares.
I do?
No, I care.
Oh, you care?
Yeah.
Sammy,
This
you're...
is an old Seinfeld bit.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Seriously?
Should I bring anything?
It's what emphasis did he...
Yes,
what word did he put?
Why would Jerry bring anything?
Jerry bring anything? Why would Jerry bring anything?
Why would Jerry bring anything?
Wow.
It changes the whole
I
context.
feel so much more like a genius now because I thought I made it up. Your brother Max was here last Sunday.
He sure was.
And he's watching now, of course.
Of course, with the whole Levine clan.
He was very excited for the Bill Burr episode. And I assume that was not the highlight of his trip.
No, riding in your Tesla was.
Ah.
Yeah. That was the highlight.
Nice.
Yeah.
Did you rehearse a conversation with him? Because he seemed very, very excited.
No, he was genuinely excited on his own.
Yeah.
Yeah, me, I'm more of an Edison fan, so I won't ride in that devil machine. But
You're not wrong.
But still.
Yeah.
But still.
Sure.
Yeah, good job.
And are you finished on the show you were shooting?
I am all done. And that's the end of that.
Kenny, we're losing signal. Don't take it personally. Jamie, since we saw you last, you went to the newly refurbished. How long has it been since they did a makeover at Club 33 at the Disneyland? It'd been forever, right?
They closed it like early January.
No, I mean, had it ever been refurbished?
Oh, no, it had never been refurbished.
Since it opened in
since 55.
1950. Oh, it opened day one.
I believe so.
Oh, wow.
I mean, that's when the park opened.
So it was tired, let's be honest.
And yeah, they took over a whole new space, There was like this grand staircase that used to be open to the public in New Orleans Square in Disneyland, but not anymore.
And as you pointed out last night,
they took over that space and the space above it, and yeah.
The front door is no longer technically 33.
I know. The address is technically no longer correct. It's like 2 doors down now because it's actually it's like a couple more doors down from the Blue Bayou now. So technically not the address anymore.
But it's swinging and fantastic.
It's lovely. The dining room's the same size, but there's now this gorgeous lounge that you can you don't have to have a reservation for. Any member can just walk in, and there's these private booths that they have that are themed to different attractions. There's a Haunted Mansion, Pirates of the Caribbean, a Mark Twain riverboat, and a Golden Horseshoe Review themed booth that have animated paintings inside them.
Wow.
That while as you sit there and enjoy your cocktails, they slowly, a whole story is played out. As you sit there, and it's gorgeous.
They're trying to blow minds, is what they're doing.
And it's all still within the New Orleans, French Quarter theme, and there's a giant door when the entrance has the gas lamps, as you would find in New Orleans, and Disney's done it again. It's stunning. There's a player piano that links up to the music that's playing outside. You can watch the fireworks and Fantasmic from the balcony as you're enjoying. They have a menu of 30 specialty cocktails. The food's actually really, really good.
Whereas
which
before
is shocking.
It was perfectly mediocre.
Yeah, but now it's still overpriced, but it's really good now.
Yeah.
But no, it's stunning, and I'm fortunate to have a very close friend that is a member that loves to go anytime. So.
Are you allowed to mention her by name?
Thanks, Joey. I'll
There
say
you
thank
go.
you, Joey.
I thought it was Nicolas Cage.
The first time we went.
That was our first connection, and then but seriously, when he went bankrupt, that was one of the first things to go. Which doesn't make any sense because
He was 30 million in debt to the tax people, and they said, well, the first thing that stops Nick is $12,000 a year to the Club 33. We've got to cut back on this nonsense.
Meanwhile, of course, my friend Joey's like tried to convince me. He's crunching numbers. He's like, if you really think about it, you're getting all these free passes and you get this and this. I'm like, Joey, I cannot justify a $40,000 initiation and then $12,000 a year.
Yeah.
Especially whenever you're willing to take me.
But I like cost prohibitive things like that.
He's like,
I
well,
like,
if you
know
think
what?
about it.
If you've got money to set on fire and this interests you, come right this way.
Yeah. It's the country club of Disneyland, and if you ever have a chance to go, and you're a fan like I am, it's amazing.
Golfers are paying what, $250,000 to join Riviera, whatnot? You know, it's exclusive nonsense, but if it's a spit in the bucket to you, have at it. Yeah, it's called America, and why everyone hates us.
Oh.
I have reports, do I? Back to work on the Mom television program. Thank you, Chuck Lorre, for one of the greatest jobs I've ever had. Allison Janney was nominated 2 minutes ago for something else. She's an unstoppable force. And Anna Faris and Chris Pratt are now hopefully Hollywood muscle couple, royalty.
I want them to be our Hollywood royalty.
Yeah.
I vote for that.
Fuck you, Brangelina.
I want them. I vote for them.
What are we going to call them?
I'm sure there's something already out there. Do you want me to Google that?
Yeah. Anna, no. Come on, help it out. Come on. You've got this, Sammy. I see it in your brain.
Pratana?
There we go. I like it. Are you watching us live streaming on the YouTube? Write to us at contact@kevinpollakschatcho.com. Let us know. I'm in the mood for giving away some free t-shirts, you sons of bitches. So send us your very own Larry King. Email that. Let us know if you're listening on the Earwolf, how you tune in and how you enjoy this particular program. Write us a review on the iTunes. Would it fucking kill you? Would it? You're not buffering. Subscribe to us on YouTube and let us know what the fuck your problem is. All right. I think that's all I got for you today on the preamble. Jamie and I, you probably heard us speak repeatedly about our visit to the Sundance Film Festival. I believe that's the right emphasis on the correct syllable.
Most certainly.
Sam was there.
Sam Levine, of course, was there. But Jamie, you and I spoke of seeing, you saw 6 films, I saw 7, which was a record for us.
I see 6?
You never get a chance, I kept track at the time. You never get a chance to see anything while you're there. And there were 2 standouts, I think.
I did see 6.
The opening night, Something Fish.
No, Whiplash.
Whiplash. That's
The
Something
J.K.
Fish.
Yeah, Big Fish.
So fucking old. But the other film that we could not shut up about was...
Well, I can't, because we also had Jenny Slate on, and I can't have said I've lied to her. Those were my 3 favorites.
Yes.
But...
Obvious Child was...
It was very good as well.
Tits, as we like to say in the business.
Really? That's a business.
If you go to a commissary at one of the studios.
I thought that was a prison term, but all right.
And so I wrote it down. This past Sundance Film Festival, Jamie and I got to see a half dozen films, which is rare. Jesus. I believe we agreed that our favorite was an indie drama called The Skeleton Twins. My first question for our guest today, Mr. Bill Hader, your allergy to peanuts, real or fake? Welcome, sir.
There it is.
How are you?
Yeah.
Nice to be here.
Peanuts, real or fake? What's going on?
Fully real.
So the peanuts in the cup, we should told you beforehand. Not slow burn. What is the worst reaction you've had to date? Other than that.
Yeah. Actually, I had a reaction on that movie, Skeleton Twins.
What happened?
If you watch the movie, there's a scene in a rock climbing wall. Mm-hmm. Me and Luke Wilson.
Yes.
I was given a chocolate. I said, I have a nut allergy, and the person said, do not worry. There's no nuts in this.
In this Hershey almonds?
Yeah, and I ate, and I had just a tiny bite of this chocolate.
And you can instantly tell.
It was filled with peanut butter, and it just went right down my throat. And I went, this has peanut butter in it. And the person went, well, you said no nuts. I've been dealing with this my whole life.
Well, but still,
and it must
be just a collection of morons.
Yeah, you just go, this happens all the time, where you say, I have a nut allergy, and they go, oh, here you go. Well, that's pine nut sauce. So it's different. And you go, nope, that is made out of nuts. So I will die if I eat that. So I was rushed to the hospital. So
It just closes up?
Yeah, my throat started closing up, and I started going into anaphylactic shock. So I was dressed like Milo. I had like all the things on I brought in, and so when you watch that scene, Luke Wilson is all shot in December. And then when it cuts to me, that's all like late January, February. We got 1 day. So the whole rock climbing scene is us talking to each other like 2 months apart.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
That, my friends, is movie magic.
In
That is movie
idiot's
magic.
Defense,
Yes.
I'm sure you know this. Peanuts are not technically a nut; they are a legume.
Well, whatever it is.
Sure, that's what the asshole was thinking when he was like, "There's no nuts in there. There's
no nuts in
legumes
there.
Bill. But you're going to be fine."
Whatever it is, it kills me.
Turns out he's also allergic to lagoons.
Also,
Whatever it
allergic
is,
to legumes.
it kills me. No, but
Holy shit.
yeah. So yeah, and it happens. It happens all the time. So yeah, when I was at SNL, especially on Saturdays, I was like nothing that could possibly maybe have nuts.
Yeah.
I just would never go.
Show
near
night.
it. Yeah, show night. You would just, it was like all apples and like just raw meat. Just get that away from me! Get that away from me! Like it just a lot of very
like a king.
Yeah, I
That's what you're
did. It
saying.
was
Apples
always
and
just
raw meat.
Yeah, I was like Charles Lawton and
Yeah. Now, in doing the prep work, I came across a character you played for the James Franco roast, and not only did it instantly become one of my favorite comedy characters in history, but I stay away from the roasts as a rule now because most of them are just awful. That one was incredibly personalized. They actually had people that knew him and had worked with him. Most of them, they get a bunch of comedians who don't know the person, and they're just doing fuck you jokes.
Yeah.
So my first question is, had you done the President of Show Business before? No. Did you co-write it with someone?
Yeah, that was written actually myself, John Mulaney, and Rob Klein and John Solomon also threw in a lot of stuff, especially some of the shit with on James Franco. I know specifically the line, James Franco, your movies, from jerking off next to a boulder to sucking a gun like a dick, you were truly the Jimmy Stewart of today. That was John Solomon and Rob Klein. I remember getting that in an email and being like, oh, cut, paste, that's going in. But a lot of it, yeah, was John Mulaney and I, you know, just talking shit out on the phone and just writing stuff out. But it took forever. That was one of those things where I, you know, Seth Rogen called and said, would you, you know, you do this? And it was in the funniest way possible of like, I don't want to do this, but we have to do this. Like, it was kind of like, it was the most apologetic, like, will you just help me out? Like, I've been thrown under a bus. You know what I mean? It was such a like, and, but he was having a lot of fun. He goes, I want to bring it back to what you said, like that old school, like we all know each other, and it's not just, I want to bring people who know James on. And he actually was working really hard at it, which I was impressed with. It wasn't like, ugh. He was just wanted it to be really good. And so I said, would you be comfortable if I did a character? And he said, do whatever you want, I don't care. So yeah, it was the president of Hollywood, because I thought it was funny that when we looked at the dais, John Mulaney and I were just talking about it, and I was like, how the fuck are all these people movie stars? Like, how the hell are we? Like, I think it started with the Seth Rogen joke of, I put you on a movie poster and I said, deal with it. You know, it was kind of that. And it was like, well, maybe that's kind of the theme for the whole thing of like, you're welcome, you Jonah, you asshole, you know, whatever. And but the nice thing about doing it as a character was I could bag on myself. Yeah. And then I didn't have to bag on. I don't know like Sarah and Natasha very well, and I didn't feel comfortable.
Aziz.
I know Aziz more, but I don't know Nick. So it was like I didn't want to go. Like if I don't know you, it's just I just felt I didn't feel good like doing that.
But as the president of
Hollywood, I didn't go after Sarah or Natasha or Nick Kroll, but I went after everyone I kind of knew well, and then I got to hit myself hard, and then it was like, and then I got to get out on that, so that was nice.
Yeah, I highly recommend that people check out the video because it really is, and also it's harder to write those jokes, I think, than people realize.
It's impossible. That was the thing.
Because they've all been done.
If you were backstage at that, with something that seems so kind of on the face of it, kind of just fun and like disposable, you know, it was people were flipping out about. Some people, I won't say were worried about what was going to be said about them. I didn't care about that. A lot of us were just wanting our thing to work because that is a room full of comedy people, and they've all heard the jokes. So you gotta like, it has to work. It has
Yeah.
to play. Like I remember Aziz was running his thing over and over again. Just all of us were just like, God, this hat and trying. People were. Yeah, I remember at a birthday party the night before, and people were like, I just saw Sarah Silverman was running her roast set over at, I heard her roast set, there people were going up and doing it and working on it. So I was like, God, this is like a real.
Yeah.
And I hadn't run mine in front of an audience yet.
People were workshopping there.
Workshopping all their stuff, and I was like, I got that tracksuit and that wig.
Yeah, it's a bright red Adidas tracksuit.
Well, Vernon Chapman too is a good friend. He gave me one.
Glasses,
yeah, he gave me a joke or two as well. I remember. But it was a fun thing where you go. It was a great email to send out to friends, going, "I'm doing a roast. Here's what I got so far. You got anything?" And then it was like everyone just.
Well, they also got the previous ones that I stopped watching. Just they got filthy for the purpose of just getting filthy.
Yeah.
And then the remarkable thing was, if you go back to the early ones.
Yeah.
In the 50s and 60s.
Yeah.
When being filthy was actually audacious. Mm-hmm. Because Rickles told me the most audacious line from a roast that he had ever heard. And it doesn't sound tame now, but it sounds a little tired. Let's say we're roasting, I don't want to pick anybody I know now. Who was the?
What era are you looking from?
God, everyone I'm thinking of is because you have to attack the person's wife, and now I don't actually want to do that.
Oh, okay.
That's how.
Let's say Dean Martin.
Yes, we're roasting Dean Martin tonight. This is a beautiful venue that we've chosen. Not the original choice. The first choice to hold tonight's festivities was inside Dean's wife's vagina, but it only seats 300. That's a joke from the mid-50s.
And everybody was like, whoa! Turn off the lights! Everyone shut it down! Shut it! Cops came in like, all right, everybody out! Everybody out! Everyone out! Yeah, it was like...
Camera pad.
Clegg lights, like,
Somebody,
come on, what? I just said...
Somebody says explode.
Everybody out! Elliot Ness, comedy Elliot Ness comes in. All right, you all, I had that. My ears have been in. Oh, God. I always liked it when Don Rickles would tell people it was over.
Yeah.
Like, remember when he told Milton Berle, it's over. Congratulations, but it's over. That was like such a deep cut. I was like, God, that is harsh. Like, you're old. It's over. That's all he would say, and I would lose my mind. Like,
Yeah.
I love you, darling. But it's over.
Yeah. Ronald Reagan's here. He doesn't know it. Just the worst awful.
Wait, did they have doing stand-up and stuff? Was that I don't know. Was it the Dean Martin roast, and then they came back on Comedy Central?
Yes.
Way later, but during the time, 80s, 90s, all those things. Did anybody have like even like in back room
The Friars
thing?
The Friars did.
But did you guys?
Friars had their own that weren't televised.
Right.
We actually
Right.
met at the Rob Reiner one. That was never televised.
That was.
Did you guys ever? Did you ever do anything like that? Or?
No, it wasn't my cup of tea.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why I thought it was kind of brilliant to hide behind a character, because then it not only disassociates you, but allows the crowd to laugh even harder because this is not a real person saying these awful things.
Yeah.
So it's kind of
harsher. It's a it was awful when we were doing it.
I was there.
Yeah, it was awful.
Oh, but it was so great though.
People every time it would cut, everyone would go, I'm so sorry. I said.
I remember. I was close enough to the stage. I could hear you guys apologizing to each other, and they cut out what must have been 15 total minutes of Seth Rogen going, I don't know why I'm making that joke. I love this guy.
Yeah.
And I don't know why I'm saying that.
The best joke, John Mulaney gave Nick Kroll a great joke on Seth, though, where he's like, Seth Rogen's partner is Evan Goldberg. He goes, how hideous does Evan Goldberg have to be to make you the face of the operation? He goes, what kind of monster is this Evan Goldberg person?
That you're the poster child?
You're the poster child of the operation. Yeah. Fuck, that made me laugh.
Speaking of Mulaney, what the fuck? Is it even fair to everyone else how absurdly talented this guy is?
Yeah, he's one of the funniest guys in the world. And like, out of the gate was hilarious. Like, when he came to SNL, I remember very vividly his first writing night. One of his first writing nights, we were writing a Vincent Price sketch. He used to do these Vincent Price sketches on SNL, and the original writer had left, and so Seth Meyers and I were writing it ourselves. And then they said, and Seth goes, "Well, you want to bring that new guy in?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And so we're like,
He comes in, he looks 17 years old.
He looks like he's 12. And I remember he was doing this with his hands, which is a nervous tick. He pulls his hands like this. So he was like, "Hi, how are you?" And we're all noting it like, "All right. Hey, want to sit down over there?" And so we're writing, and he was kind of quiet as Seth and I were doing stuff. And then we got to a part in the sketch where we were like, yeah, so then Fred Armisen would play Liberace in the sketches, and Liberace and Vincent Price were always fighting with each other.
Of course.
And Liberace said something, and I go, "Oh, and Vincent Price should say something back, like, and then John Mulaney from the back room goes, he should say, 'Save your sassy asides for your windowless bars.'" And Seth Meyers got out of the way. He's like, "New guy, you sit down at the keyboard. That was a perfect joke. You're writing this." You know, and then we went, "Whoa, holy shit." You know, we were like so impressed with it. And then after that, it was like literally just the economy in which he can write a perfect joke just off the top of his head. The economy that he has is just astounding. He just has that brain that can just go, "Oh, it's boom," and you're like, that's it.
It is.
Walking out. Yeah, and that's a gift. That,
It's
like,
so rare
You're
to
born with that.
See
yeah.
the comedy matrix.
Yeah. I don't know how he does it. We're all like, but by the end, I mean, everyone was, you know, just in awe of John, you know, early.
A lot of course, has been said about you guys coming up with Stefan and how he would fuck with you by changing the cards right before you would go. It seemed like the one sketch you guys wrote that never made it to air was the Casey and JC Kasem, which, as it was described in the research, just being paraphrased, was fall down hilarious.
Yeah, the audience wasn't into it at all. It was me and Dana Carvey.
Dana's doing Casey, who he has been doing since
forever.
He was 15.
And the sketch was, Dana Carvey was hosting, and we were like, we want him to do Mickey Rooney, we want him to do Casey Kasem. So we wrote 2 sketches, one where we did Mickey Rooney, which turned into kind of I forget what happened, but our thing got kind of changed, and it turned into kind of more of an impression parade thing.
Right.
But it was just a fun game to see him do Mickey Rooney, because it makes me laugh. And then
bang!
Bang, the world. I'm the biggest star in the world. Yeah. And he did it at the table, and I was like, like one of those girls in the Beatle videos. I was like, it flipped me out. And then Casey Kasem, and so we had this sketch that we wrote, and it was the hardest. I think John and I laughed writing something. We were crying. We were laughing so hard, it was Casey Kasem. It's at night. It's the facade of his house, and he hears something like a crash in the trash cans, and he comes out, and there's Dana in a bathrobe, and he goes, "Who's out there? I'm Casey Kasem." And then I come out and go, "Dad, it's not a burglar or a raccoon. It's me, your son, Casey Kasem." And he goes, "Son, I want nothing to do with you. Dad, hear me out. Son, I don't want to talk to you." And it was the idea that, we had been estranged for a long time. Right. And he goes, "I was always asking you questions like, when are you going to get a job? When are you going to move out? And what recording artist has more #1 hits?" And I go, "Mariah Carey was 17. But seriously, Dad, there's a drug dealer after me named Mateo." And we had this thing where he goes, what was the thing where I go, "Dad, why won't you let me in the house?" And he goes, "Here's a letter. Dear Casey, your son and his boyfriend, Jonathan, owe me..." He goes, "Here's a letter. Your son and his boyfriend, Jonathan, owe me $5,000 in cocaine money." Blah, blah, blah. And it was like, and he goes, "Well, Jonathan, if you touch one," but he folds it up, and he goes, "Well," and he addresses the camera. He goes, "Well, Jonathan, if you touch a hair on my boy's head, I'll fly at you like a Lebanese torpedo." And we were laughing like on the floor. I remember sitting down writing that sketch because we were just cracking up. And then we did it at the table. on Wednesday, and it blew, like, I mean, everyone was losing their minds,
Right.
and we were like, this is going to be great. And we did it at Dress, and it was just like, like we started tripping up. It was that thing where you'd only known it to kill.
That creates the rhythm.
And the whole rhythm went off, because we did it when we did it during blocking. The crew was dying,
Losing
laughing.
their mind.
Everybody did it, and it just died. And we both were going tripping on, and this is the worst.
Yeah.
And it ended, and we just went. And I walked over, and John was, under the bleachers with Lauren, and he was just like, I have nothing. I have no idea why that just happened. That was crazy. You know? And so, yeah, it was a good lesson. You just have no idea. Like, the audience was just like, no.
Resoundingly no.
Resounding no.
But you gave an insight into the audience, the live audience, versus the folks at home who are tuning in the millions. And that's where the show's success in the big picture comes from. But it's what gets on the show's success from Dress to Live is solely in the hands of those people in that live audience. Yeah. And you sort of broke down, which I don't want to bastardize, and we'll ask you to. You gave an analogy as to how that's almost the anti-comedy audience that comes in there for the live taping because of the tourists and in other words, they didn't pay to come to a comedy show, and have been longtime fans of specific things.
Yeah, sometimes. Well, I'll say this to clarify: it is the Dress audience is who you really that decides the show, which is a crazy thing, is our Dress audience, and it was that. Because sometimes a live audience, you would really feel like the minute you would come out as a specific character, like if Kristen would go out as Gilly or something, everyone would go bonkers because they watched the show.
Stefan, they'd lose their shit.
Yeah, Stefan, sometimes you know what it was. What I was really getting at was you come to SNL only playing, at UCB, or I came from Second City, LA, and all these other places, and most of the time the people in the audience are like comedy fans and comedy, or your friends.
Is the point, they've come to specifically
see you, and this is more like, I remember saying because Amy Poehler, I remember when I started, she gave me a good piece of advice. She's like, do not do the show for your friends, because your friends will not. They'll be like, where's the weird thing that you did up, in the small theater, in the small club that kills?
Right.
Why? And I go, it doesn't work here, because the audience, to me, it felt like if you were like at a gate at the airport, and then you just turned around and said, all right, everybody, here's a funny thing. What do you guys think of this? And everybody at the airport has to turn and look at you and go, oh, yeah. You have to make like those people laugh, because that's kind of what it is. It's not necessarily people primed for it, which is interesting.
An hour before coming to the show, they were at the Empire State Building going, this is fucking incredible.
Yeah. Now we're here at SNL. And
deciding which brilliantly written sketch should be seen by the world.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. But the thing is that you can't, I don't think, though, that they're bad or wrong or anything like that. It's just the difference for the performers. It was a thing that Steve Higgins would always talk about, like when I started, like the Venn diagram of like, here's what works at SNL and here's what you find funny, and you have to find where that crossover is. And there's certain people like John Mulaney, Kristen Wiig, it's like the same diagram. It's like there is no they just came in, and they're in what they instinctually found funny. It was like it just worked. But I know I had to work really hard to find that overlay, and that was kind of the thing. It was like I was so used to playing for like comedy nerds, and then you're like, no, you got to play for like your neighbors. It's like doing a show for like your neighbors, like not even your parents' friends. It's like people who are like your neighbors' friends you kind of barely know, and you're going like, what do you guys think? This is funny. So it has to have more of a broader appeal.
But in the case of something like Casey and JC, spelled Jacey, like Casey, where it destroys in front of the most cynical comedy writers in the world. It destroys in front of the most cynical camera crew that works on a comedy show in the world. Lauren has to know the power of this particular sketch based on all of those numbers, those real life numbers. and then that dress audience stares like and makes a sound of crickets, and it's deemed not worthy. I guess that goes into that percentage of every year there's going to be 17% that's great, and we know it's great, but we're not going to do it.
Yeah. Well, it also depends on what else is in the show, and it was Dana's show. So the top half of that show was all of his greatest hits.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
So then like the second half of the show is us, and then there was probably, so that's like 4 sketches, and there's probably 4 better sketches that played better than that. And so Lauren's picking the show, and he's going like, well, we have to have Church Lady, Wayne's World.
Yeah.
You know, we have to have all these things. So then, I love it, but it's got to go.
Right.
But then there's times where he'll fight for something that dies, that Lauren just is like, fuck you, that's funny. Like, there's one sketch, if you want to find it, and I don't know if it's a funny sketch, but Will Forte and John Solomon and I wrote a sketch where Will Forte and I played these characters named Jerry and Carl. They're these gruff businessmen. Hello, Jerry. Hello, Carl. Good to see you. Oh, I'm sorry, Jerry. And it was called Fart Face, and it was with Josh Brolin, and it was a very serious scene where we were, like, he calls Josh a fart face, and we're in a business setting. And
It's
like,
in an office.
Yeah, and he goes, "You're acting like a real fart face." And he goes, "I really don't appreciate you saying that. I am not a fart face, and I don't like you calling me that." And it just escalates to this place where he starts crying, and then we make threats that we're going to tell everybody he cried in our office, which to me, Forte and I thought was the funniest threat that you could possibly give someone. Like, we're going to tell everybody you cried in our fucking office. And he's like, "Oh, please don't do that." And then he leaves and we start doing it. We're like, "Hey, guess who was just in our office crying like a fucking bitch?" Or whatever it was. And we did it at the table. Lauren, for some reason, lost his mind. He laughed so hard. His face was red. He thought it was so funny. And then we did it at Dress, and it played like a weird Mammoth play. It was a silence, and it was just us, just businessmen just chewing up scenery, and you can hear our footsteps. You can hear me like play like, "Listen, John," you know, it's like, I mean, you could hear everything, and the audience was just like, ugh. And Lauren, we went in, and not only did he say fuck it, he moved it up in the order. And it was the Sarah Palin episode where she came, Josh Brolin hosted, but Sarah Palin came. It was the most watched episode in SNL history up to that point.
Holy shit.
And the sketch after update was Fart Face. And we were like, I cannot believe. We came in, and you heard an audible like, "What?" Like everybody was like, "What?" And so when Lauren got to that, he kind of was like, "I think there was no lack of commitment in that sketch." And he was really into it. He goes, "Hey, you guys really committed to it," and it was great. And then he had the great note, which was, I had a boom shadow and fart face, because he saw a boom shadow. I had a boom shadow and fart face, which made us all laugh. And then at Good Nights, I went over to Sarah Palin and I said, "Did you like my sketch?" And she goes, "Which one was that?" And I go, "It was called Fart Face." And she went, "Oh no." Which I respect her for. She was very honest. She went, "Oh no, like no one like that." Who would like that?
That's fantastic.
Yeah, so that was, Fart Face. Oh my God. That was fun.
I feel like the Casey and J.C. Kasem sketch would have eventually gotten on the air were it not for the fact that Dana was hosting.
Yeah.
And so necessary to the character.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Because, I mean, I know other sketches that have killed in the room and die at Dress, and then a few weeks or months later, they'll bring them back.
Yeah, that does happen. I mean, that happened with Stefan. You know, Stefan was a thing that was a sketch first, and then it didn't work, and then we kept bringing it back as a sketch, and it never really worked. And then Doug Abels, who was running Update at the time, said, "Do you want to do it on an Update?" And then for some reason it worked. It's that thing, like, you have no idea why. Like, why is this working now when it was the thing that by the time he said, "Do you guys want to do it on an Update?" I remember Mulaney coming into my office going, do you want to write one on Update? And I was like, all I've known is like
these great stories.
It just doesn't work, you know? And he was like, well, let's try it, you know? Right. And I give John deserves a lot of credit for that stuff working, because the wordplay and the language of it, so much of that is John, you know? If anything, I'm kind of just like more of like an editor, and I will throw in a joke here and there, you know, but most of the weird wordplay is just, you give him like an area and then he leaves and comes back and I'm like, where did this come from? Same thing with Herb Welch was another one, the old reporter guy. That was another one we would laugh really hard at. We would write that in the room together, and we would laugh hard at that one because it's just old phrases make us laugh.
Yeah. Well, the joy also, I think, for the audience and fans of Stefan is the sketch actor, in this case you, gets to completely lose themselves in a fake persona that becomes real as anything on the show. Everyone then wants Stefan to be real. They want this insane person, not character, to be in their life.
Yeah.
It was one of those transcending
Oh, it's nice of you to say.
characters. I mean, you must have had, and still do, people come up to you and
Oh, yeah.
in your face about it.
Yeah, the thing I always appreciated, a guy came up to me one time and said, I love Stefan, and he was a gay guy, and he said, I liked that the joke wasn't that he was gay, and that really made me laugh. That made me laugh because I was so happy, and I said, oh, that was a very much a conscious effort on John and I's part. Was like, usually the joke is that they're gay, and it's like, he just happens to be, the joke is that he's not doing his job right. And it's the thing that I will always find funny, which is a very smart person being very patient with a crazy person. I always will find funny. The scene in Lost in America with Gary Marshall and Albert Brooks, where he's like, you'll give us our money back, and Gary Marshall's like, I can't do that.
Right.
And here's why I can't do it. And very step by step, like explaining why the dumbest idea in the world won't work, I will always find funny. So people always think, I mean, John would trip me up, but initially why I would start laughing was Seth's patience would make me laugh, of him going, okay, now Stefan. Like, that would always make me laugh, because it was just like, he just isn't doing his job right, and anybody else would be like, get out of here, but he's like, look,
The Desert Ed has
I was very clear with you. Like, that stuff always makes me laugh.
Yeah. Well, we thought enough time had passed and you might actually miss Stefan. Mm-hmm. And all you might be lacking was some cue cards for Stefan to come back to us. So we asked our very own, what have you got there? Oh, look at that. It's a script.
What's that?
Those aren't cue cards.
No.
Here, let me see. We like to, this is our very own Corey Levin. Oh, I get to play,
Hi,
I get to be the, okay, this
Which
is
one
fantastic.
is this?
I did not sign up for this.
With the Chinese New Year just around the corner, tourists are going to flocking to the city to celebrate. And who better to tell us about all the best hot spots than our own city correspondent, Stefan?
Hi.
Hi, Stefan. How have you been?
Who are you?
Thank you for that. So tell us, Stefan, what's a good place for ringing in the new year of the goat? You know, something with a little Asian flair, perhaps?
Well, if a little bit of Asian flair is what you're looking for, Chinatown's hottest club is Goosh. Built on the backs of a million Egyptian slaves, this rolling blackout is the brainchild of Shutterbug party promoter Jeff Bridges of Madison County. The bouncer wears an old leather football helmet. There's no password, but he's extremely racist. This place has everything. Tuffets, Kurds, Whey, Obamacare, and a human hockey pox.
I have to ask, what's a human hockey puck?
It's that thing of when a midget curls up in the fetal position and you hit him as hard as you can with a stick.
Come on, everyone.
That's officially the last Stefan. No.
God.
Yeah, thank you, Corey.
Oh, we're all gonna get sued now. Nice job.
Now NBC is gonna come hard on you guys.
Yeah, can't wait.
Yeah, come down hard. But that's a funny one. The midget ones, those were the ones that were always the hardest to
Get through?
Yeah, or to figure out, you know, because they couldn't be like too degrading. They couldn't be.
Sure.
You know, yeah, that was always a tough one.
And
also, you're not allowed to say midget. That was a big deal. It was like you couldn't say midget.
Yeah.
And we would just do it anyway. But they would say, like, standards and practices would come up to us like, you cannot say midget.
They weren't kidding.
Yeah, and they said to John, the woman said, oh, thank you.
Water.
I spilled water everywhere.
Sure.
The woman said, you can't, we were walking out to do, I think the first one, and she said, you can't say midget on air. That's like saying the N-word.
Right.
And John said, no, it's not, because you just said midget.
Wow. You didn't say the M word.
Yeah, you just said midget, so clearly it's not. And then we just went out and did it.
What a fascinating, good point he's made.
Yes.
Why did you hate pitching sketches on Monday so damn much?
I was never that good at it. I always felt like I was not very good at writing like just straight jokes. That's why I was always amazed by guys like John. I just worked with Amy Schumer. She's the same way, like just has that brain where she just go and just has that like that economy of like
Right.
this like perfectly, and very simple
Right.
joke. And I just never had that, so I was always like the king of just lame fake pitches, like get past me
Right.
quick. And also I had this weird thing of like if I had a good show on Saturday, it was kind of nice to go in on Monday in the pitch meeting and fall on your face because it brought back your like humility and you're like, oh yeah, I got to work for this.
Yeah.
Like my shit does stink. You had to, but I never did it on. I actually would. It never seemed like I was trying, but I was trying to write good pitches, and they never worked.
Right.
Yeah.
It was something you and John worked on. You felt more comfortable doing it.
Yeah, I leaned heavily on the writers. I mean, I always respected people like Kristen, Fred Armisen, Andy. These people would just write stuff on their own. Like Fred would write some of the funniest sketches, and they were just by him. It was just him. He just wrote it by himself, and
Right.
they were hilarious.
Right.
I did not have that. The skill or the confidence to do something like that. I always wanted to go in with, I would go in with a writer and say, okay, here's, Vinny Vedecci, here's this voice I have, like this character, and maybe it's a talk show, maybe it's this, I don't know what it is, and then we work on it together and figure it out,
Would you say that was a voice you just had?
That was just a
It's-
voice I had, yeah.
It's one of the most memorable ones for us. And I remember talking to Will Forte when he was here a few weeks ago, him saying, yeah, I love that sketch because they would just cut to me and I was eating. I was always hungry.
He would eat spaghetti. And he just had to eat spaghetti the whole time, and that made us laugh. That was like my favorite thing in the whole sketch was that we made Will get in a costume. They had to buy all this stuff for him, and then he just ate the whole time. And he never said he never even looked up. He never even looked up. He would just have his head down the whole time eating, and it was wonderful.
Bobby Moynihan as the kissing son.
Yeah,
also.
that's from Miller's Crossing. It's that little kid from Miller's Crossing that we were,
Give me the hi-hat.
Yeah, when he slaps him, he goes, "Did somebody hit you?" Papa, look what the sisters gave me. And he hits him. Yeah, that made us, John and I were like, so what if Bobby, I remember that, that was with Simon Rich, and I wrote that, and we were like, what if Bobby was the little kid from Miller's Crossing? And we started laughing really hard. And he smoked cigarettes, I remember. But yeah, that one was a lot of fun. That was a hard one for our director, Don, because he's watching the sketch live, and he's reading along with the script. And on this line, we cut to this, and on this line, we cut to that. Well, that was all gibberish. So he didn't know where to cut.
You're speaking gibberish.
I'm speaking gibberish.
Right.
So he's just watching me instead of speaking lines. I'm going, and he's going, when do I cut? So if you watch it, I will gesture a lot. It was like he was looking for a gesture.
Throwing
like, go to the wide. It was all this weird timing thing. He puts down the cigarette. That means go to,
oh wow,
Fred, go to Fred, this or whatever. But you could kind of tell because it would be like you would yell a fake phrase to somebody, and then it would end, and then he would cut to Fred. And
right. Yeah. But it was also a breakthrough moment. I think you said something about it took you maybe 4 years to really feel comfortable and be able to enjoy the experience.
Yeah.
And there was a breakthrough moment when Julia Louis-Dreyfus was on with Vinny.
Yeah, that was the first one.
That was where you sort of earmarked, oh shit, that was fun.
I did that at the table, and I remember I had a dry spell, and it was one of those things where at SNL you're like, is anybody noticing that I haven't really been in the show for 7 shows or whatever? Like has anybody noticed, like, is it just me that I haven't been in anything? Like I've been customer number 2 or the second cop through the door kind of,
Right.
And then we wrote Vinny Vedecci for the Julie Louis-Dreyfus episode, and we did it at the table, and it got an applause break. And Paula Pell patted my back, and I was like, oh, everybody noticed. Everybody noticed that I needed that. You know, I remember Paula Pell going, hey, buddy, like, oh, Hader really needed that, you know. And so it was very sweet. It was like, and it was a moment of like, oh, okay, you know. It wasn't like a giant round. It wasn't like the movie Rudy or something, but it was.
That's what we pictured.
Yeah, it wasn't like, Warren Beatty going crazy, or Ned Beatty. But it was just like people were like, hey, good job with that. And
it is a weird part of the experience that I've heard from others, where it's almost like a mathematical phenomenon. Mm-hmm. You'll be top heavy for 5 weeks in a row, and then a ghost for a number of weeks.
Especially your first couple of years, the minute you think,
just assume it's a red flag for being fired?
100%, yeah. You're just like, what did I do wrong?
Right.
What did I do wrong? And my feeling was like, instead of, okay, I'm gonna, like, how do I be the breakout guy or whatever? Not that I didn't even enter the place that way. It was more like, okay, this is like the A team. What is my specialty? And I figured quickly it was impressions. And so then it was like, hey, what? I went to Lauren and I was like, Bob Odenkirk gave me a great piece of advice. He's like, just go in and talk to Lauren. Don't be afraid of him. Like, just go in and talk to Lauren.
Right.
And he was so right. And I just went in and talked to him. I go, what can I do? Because I've been, like, it's nothing. I haven't done anything, you know? And he was like, oh, no, like, you're doing great. Yeah, if you want to try, do impression pieces, like, that would be a good thing to get from you. And now that I know the show better, it is that thing. It's like, what is each person bringing to the table? And how does all of us together make an ensemble? And so
you were the impressions guy in the A team.
Yeah, so I was like, well, maybe if I just start focusing on impression pipieces, that would be good. And that's the other thing I learned. I would do an impression piece like, I just dumb shit, like Ricardo Montalban's book club, and like I did a thing with John Malkovich doing something, but they were not funny, but it told the writers, hey, I can do this.
Right.
And everybody went, that wasn't funny, but hey, Hader can do Malkovich, great.
Right.
We'll put that in something, you know?
Yeah, and I read somewhere where you weren't aware until then that you were the impressions guy. It was something that was sort of...
Yeah, it was when I did the Al Pacino thing in my first show that people were like, hey, you do impressions, and I was like, yeah, I guess. I mean, I didn't do impressions before my SNL audition. Naomi Odenkirk's my manager, Bob's wife, and I had a meeting with her. So Megan Mullally saw me, recommended me to Lauren Michaels, and I had this meeting with Naomi because I knew a friend of mine worked for her. And she was like, so what do you do? Like, what's a character you do? I go, I don't have any characters. She goes, do you do impressions? I was like, no. And she was like, what did she see? And I go, she saw me in like an improv show, like, me against a back wall and like running in and joining scenes and going, and improvising. And she was like, oh, well, don't just, nod and be nice and just have a nice conversation with them, And so I met Lauren and that's what we did. And then Naomi ended up helping and working with me and being like, okay, like, well, what are things you like? She gave me a nice piece of advice, which was like, don't try to do things you think are popular, like just do things that you are actually attracted to.
Right.
And that's why I did Vincent Price, because I love old movies, so it's like, all those people that like everyone does, Like my audition was actually pretty hacky. It was like James Mason, Al Pacino, Peter Falk, like all these things that
Peter
everyone...
Falk, very hacky.
No, everyone does, but come on. I mean, no, but it's like, it wasn't like, whoa, he's pulling out some crazy
Well, it's
thing.
not Malkovich or, dare I say, Alan Arkin.
Yeah.
You do want to stray.
You want to like...
Those are always the ones that made me laugh.
Yeah,
When this guy Dave Gee did an impression of Warren Beatty, and specifically came up behind me when he gets Jack Warden in the headlock in Heaven Can Wait and says, God had to pick me, and it just, the weird little lispy thing that was in his whisper, and it was like, who the fuck thought to do Warren Beatty?
Yeah, or like Jim Downey told me there was a guy that did Bruce Dern really well. And you're like,
Rick Overton.
Yeah.
Insanely well.
Insane, did an insane Bruce Dern, and you're like, yeah,
Right.
Like, that's the shit.
Of course that's a thing.
Of course that's a thing.
First people you see do Goldblum or James Spader.
And you go, of course.
Yeah.
There's that thing that Jim Downey would tell me, like handles, like impression, like certain people have real handles on them and certain people don't.
Right.
And those old movie actors had such big handles on them where you could just go, oh, James Mason, that's so clearly what you play or whatever. So it's just kind of like, well, I'll just grab people that I find funny and just have big, have handles on them. But the people that I was assigned a lot of times didn't. It was like, I hope hair and makeup is really good, because I can't, like, how do you do Robert Pattinson? I don't know how to do that,
Yeah. And then you did.
And I did with a lot of makeup.
Yeah, I don't know if I put it in the book or not, but I did tell a story about how I was on the phone with Dana. Dana and I came out of San Francisco stand-up around the same time. So when he got SNL, we would talk every now and then on the phone, and it was like a Tuesday that early in the week. And I said, who do you have to do this week? And he said, Ross Perot. And no one had even thought about doing Ross Perot. Yeah. And I said, what are you going to do? He said, they got a tape of him on Larry King. And by the end of the conversation, he and I both had a flawless Ross Perot after just fucking around. Yeah. And of course, Dana is always the best at finding that one little, and his, of course, was, can I finish? Larry, can I finish?
Yeah.
Or whether it was George Bush, not gonna,
Yeah, that's
always
the handle thing. That's what Jim was talking about. Like that thing that you can, and I think Dana, when he hosted, he told me what I couldn't put my finger on it, but he goes, well, yeah, it's all rhythm.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's what it is.
They're musical rhythm.
It's a rhythm. So you go, okay, when you're like, find the rhythm. And I remember he said that to me, and then I went. The next thing I was assigned, I think, was James Carville. And I go, okay, let's find the rhythm. And then I watched him like on a Larry King type thing, and you go, oh, there's the rhythm. It's right there. It was like
the laugh.
The laugh and like the way he kind of like kind of wind up into something was really funny. But yeah,
that one kills, destroys us. The Carville.
My favorite Carville thing was Rob Klein. Rob Klein wrote on those with Mulaney. That was Rob Klein and Mulaney. They also wrote those great David Patterson pieces for Fred, where he was the blind. That was made me laugh harder than anything in my life.
Just getting really close to the camera. Too.
Yeah, where he would just wheel out. That's the hardest I've ever seen Lauren Michaels laugh my whole time at SNL. The first time Fred rolled out, and he went like that. Lauren Michaels lost his mind. He was laughing so hard. He goes, "Come on, I'm like an ex." What did he say? He's like, "Come on, I'm like a ex." Like crack addict who's now I'm blind ex-crack addict, now the governor of New Jersey. It's like the plot to a Richard Pryor movie. But Rob Klein would have the best jokes for Carville, and Rob's this very like kind of calm, like Harvard Lampoon guy, real like, hey man. But he had that one where it's like. Saying that there's a difference between the Republican and a Tea Party is like I have a midget standing next to a smart car. He goes, you ain't tall, midget, you just clever. And he would just come up to you in the hallway and give you that, and you're like, whoa, yeah. Or the eel thing, the whole thing about Carville. He goes, I think Carville maybe was raised by eels. What do you think? Kind of just come up and I go, yeah, maybe he was raised by eels. And that's what it was like. I'd like to say hello to my mother real quick, if I may. That was all, yeah, that's all Rob Klein kind of just like, hey man, yeah. But that's what I mean, that kind of mind, that confidence to kind of come up with something like that, I was always, yeah. But I felt like in that same A-team way, like in a, I would work on that stuff, but I realized I was like, oh, I can really perform this stuff, and finding laughs where there's no laughs, that was always really fun.
Yeah.
Especially like I played 100 game show hosts, and that was so much fun to like
find the mundane
thing, but find where the game show host, one of my favorite sketches I ever did at SNL was one that John Mulaney, Simon Rich, and America Sawyer wrote called What's That Name? Where I don't know if you remember this, where it was the people come on, it's like, now what's that name? And it's like, okay, and there's a picture of, Daffy Duck. That's Daffy Duck. $10 for you. Congratulations. And then the next picture is like, Mariah Carey. And it's like, Mariah Carey, $20 for you. Now tell me, I will give you $1 million if you could tell us who this person is. And it's like, hey, And it's Keenan. I'm your doorman. Been your doorman for 20 years. Your son Avi likes space. I know everything about your family. What's my name? And it was Paul Rudd, and he's like,
So great.
And it was such a fun little thing that it was a game show, but they allowed me to make the game show. They were the first people to write the game show host as like a dickhead. That he was like, usually the game show host was the straight guy.
Right.
But in those sketches, they were like, no, you should be like a swarmy asshole.
Yeah.
Like, you know. So Paul's like, I don't like it. He goes, Paul at one point goes, I think this game stinks. And I go, well, I think you stink. And it gets a giant laugh because everyone was like, they've never seen the game show host just become an asshole to the contestant out of the blue. Like, it was like, whoa! Like, you hear it from the audience. They're like, what the heck? Why is he turning on the contestant?
Right.
Well, I think you stink. Anyway, now it's like, what?
Yeah. Yeah, as hard in the Jeopardy stuff with Will Ferrell.
Oh, it was great.
Yeah, you know, as hard as he gave it as Sean Connery and talking about his mother, it was ultimately Will fighting back a little bit.
Yeah, that made it just, you would just
Round it out.
You would round it out. You needed that, and it was so much fun to make. Who is this game show host? That was this.
Yeah.
That's what we would walk. We're like, who is this guy?
Right.
He's kind of an asshole. Like, is he fund? Yeah. What's that? What's that name? We had a backstory that he was independently wealthy and he funded this game show himself, just to like call these people out for being dickheads. That he purposely would have these people on air, just to like, fuck with them. And so we were laughing so hard. John's like, yeah, I think this guy's just independently wealthy. This isn't being broadcast anywhere.
It's a presentation.
It's a presentation just for him to be like, I hate you people. I just want to call you out on your shit.
That's a great Twilight Zone episode.
Yeah, it was
actually.
funny. Yeah, that would be a great Twilight Zone episode.
Now, before I find out from you what the hell a Mazeppa Pompazoide is, and how you were able to witness young Gary Busey, I have to thank our sponsor for this mid-roll. TXMQ has been an IT solutions company for over 35 years. TXMQ offers midware and application integration, platform solutions and services, professional staffing, and ECM and web portals as well. By the way, so do I. And don't you know, so is much more than I personally understand as I'm reading this to you now. Stop running your company at half production speed and simply head on over to txmq.com or call them at 1-716. You love that I give the 1, right, Sam? 636-0070. Let them explain it all one hell of a lot better than I can. That number again, 716-636-0070. txmq.com. And don't forget to tell them I sent you. If you think they might have what your business is lacking, please let TXMQ create a better and easier way of doing business for you today. TXMQ, IT solutions for over 35 years, and thank them. What is
Mazeppa Pompazoide?
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Correct, continue.
And where did you grow up? Give us a name now. The code name Sapphire mean anything to you? No.
By the way, how many schools did you apply to before choosing the obvious one of Scottsdale Community College?
I went to a college preparatory school, like a Rushmore Academy type school. All my friends were going to like Ivy League schools, and I just had terrible grades.
Sure.
But I was lucky that I had teachers there that were like, "You're not doing drugs. You're just not interested." I was really just more of a movie geek.
Yeah.
And so they had like this video journalism class that was kind of like whatever class. And they said, do you want to take this over? And every Thursday, one Thursday a month, you can have your own show that will broadcast, you know, on the thing. And I went, great. So it was like my own like weird little daily show.
Yeah.
That I was the anchor and I did everything. And there's a thing called Channel 1 that we always had to watch every Thursday. And so we did like a parody of it.
Right.
And so I was very lucky that I went to that school. And so in a weird way it was great, but in another way it was bad because I still had shitty grades. So then I got out of that thinking everyone was going to, and then, I mean, I couldn't even get into like state school. I mean, I remember coming home and my mom going, you didn't get into OU. like that. Like,
now what?
Now what? Yeah. And it was that heart sinking feeling of all my friends going up to college, and I'm just kind of like, I was working at my dad's office, just going like, I don't know what I'm gonna do, but my parents, were like, you want to do this stuff. They were always very supportive. Like, you want to like, get into movies and everything. So Scottsdale Community College really was like, there's this thing called Art Institute International, which had these like, there was one in Phoenix and Dallas and everything. And I just like literally went, okay, I'm going to Phoenix. Like, we're just going to go to Phoenix. And so I went to Phoenix, and I was there for like the Art Institute of Phoenix for like 4 months. And then a friend said, oh, that Scottsdale Community College, they actually shoot stuff on film. And this is like the late 90s when like that was the thing, before video looked like it does now.
Sure.
It was like, oh, we could actually shoot on Super 16 and 35, and they had Avids and all that shit. So I went there, and then in my first year production class, my first film production class, I sat next to this guy, Nick Jasinovic, and he's like one of my best friends. And Nick Jasinovic directed a movie called Paper Heart with Michael Cera, and he's directed tons of commercials. He's directed Broad City and Delocated and stuff. So and then we just moved to LA and PA'd.
Yeah, it's the PA portion of your, in the research that seems chock-filled.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you moved to Los Angeles with dreams of being the next P.T. Anderson or Wes Anderson, according to one of the interviews. I just see you walking down the street. God, if you're listening, please make me a filmmaking Anderson.
Yes, yes. Bill Anderson.
How does one become the personal assistant to Arnold Schwarzenegger on the set of Collateral Damage? Is it that you were working on the film and you were assigned?
Yeah, it kind of slowly became that over a couple. And it was this woman named Christina Peterson was the AD at base camp. She dealt with him, but then slowly it just became like, do you just want to go get Arnold? Bill, do you want to go over there? And
wasn't Collateral Damage in that group of 6 movies in a row that was the end of his career?
Yeah.
Nobody knew it was over yet? Because that means we almost crossed paths, because I did End of Days with Arnold.
Oh, yes.
Which was right after Collateral Damage?
I think it was before, wasn't it?
I think it was
Before, I think.
Dear Lord, that's how close it was.
Yeah, well,
So I saw the Big Top circus.
You saw the camp, his whole camp.
There was
his
a
whole
semi
thing.
filled with workout equipment, and I would walk by eating chocolate cake and mocking him.
And we would have to, well, that workout equipment, that thing was out like in these coffee plant fields in Jalapa, Mexico.
Sure.
We're in the jungle, and that's where it was like this giant, Arnold village. That was where that was my job, was going out there. And every morning we would get up there at like 4 in the morning, and these guys, wait, don't go out, don't go out. And these guys would go out with pitchforks, and they would
Get rid of the snake?
get rid of the snakes. We would just sit there with our coffees, watching them get rid of the snakes from base camp, where we were supposed to go work. And I was like, guys.
Do you think the snakes will want to come back?
Yeah, it's like, they're just going to stay. The sun, they don't like the sun, right? It was awful. And so you sit there, and it was one of those things as you walked it from each trailer, it was like, nobody, it was.
Nobody bite me.
And, except Arnold would just be like, this is where we shot Predator.
Don't be a pussy.
He's like, this is where we shot Predator, and it was very nice. I had the schnitzel flown in.
He did. He told me this. We were talking about having schnitzel flown in.
Absolutely.
Like, oh, that's great. I love it. And then I remember one time he came up to me, and he goes, the first time I met him, he came up to me and he goes, where is Jeff and Peter? That's his hair and makeup guys. I don't know if you remember them.
I do. I remember them.
Tall Jeff Don, his dad, or grandpa Jack Don, and then little Peter. He goes, where's Jeff and Peter? And I go, I'll look for him. Like my mic. I'll look for him. And he goes, find them. Show me your leadership capabilities.
That's how you were going to show leadership capabilities?
And by
get a 20?
By going like, they're right there. They're right there. And
Wow.
he was like, ugh. But he was, by the end of it,
be leader
was, show me your leadership capabilities. Yeah, that was the. But other than that, I barely. And then he would play chess, and he would just play chess, and they would. I remember there was a scene in the movie where this village had been decimated, and there's fires and there's bodies everywhere, and the shot is like they had 7 cameras on this helicopter coming in with Arnold. It lands, he gets out and kind of surveys this damage, and then has a scene with somebody. But it was the big scene of him landing, and then we're gonna go in tighter for coverage for the actual scene.
Took 4 hours to set up, and now you can't get him out of his trailer.
And now he's playing, and they're like, we're ready for him. It's that awful thing you hear on the mic. Light him up.
Yeah.
Here we go. And you see smoke like over the corner. There's a helicopter like right next to me, and I'm like, he's playing chess, guys. And they're like, well, get him out. And I'm like, hey, Arnold, they're ready for you. And he's like, he's just playing chess. And so I wrote on a piece of paper, lose.
To the guy he was
playing. Yeah, I
playing.
gave it to the guy. And he read it, and then Arnold went, let me see this. He goes, we play another game. And I was like, fuck. I've never had to go out and tell a helicopter to turn it down. Like, we're not going, like, I was doing, like, he's not getting out. He's playing chess.
By the way, if I may,
Fire's down, put out the fires.
you showed leadership qualities by thinking to write lose
I
on
thought
a
that was
piece
pretty
of
smart.
paper,
I thought that was pretty smart.
folding it up and slipping it to his opponent, who I'm sure wanted to be over with.
Yeah, he was nervous. It was his acting coach. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, and he was like, yeah.
What do you mean the V's are W's? I'm
What do
saying
you
it.
mean? The V's are W's. What do you mean?
Yeah, but he was. But you know, other than that, it was that was actually a blast just working on that show. It was,
Well, it's a giant
Yeah,
circus.
giant circus, and I was 20 years old, and you're out in the jungle and shooting and hanging out in weird parts of Mexico with like all these like crew guys, and they'd all been there before. Like, I was here on Romancing the Stone. I'll say some crazy shit, and I'm like, I don't want to. I'm good. I'm all right. Yeah. So yeah, but that was a blast. That was a good time. But that's how I worked on that, and then Spider-Man I worked on a little bit, the Sam Raimi one, but then I mostly was a PA on like really, really low budget movies. Actually, I was a PA for one day on the movie K-Pax. You remember that?
Really?
And I got fired because we were at LA Center Studios, and there was supposed to be Jeff Bridges hailing a taxi, and it was supposed to be New York, I think, but it was LA Center Studios, and they were shooting Planet of the Apes on the other side, and I blew my lockup, which lockup means you're supposed to, wait, we're shooting, you know, you hold people up. And while he was doing it, 2 apes walked by in the background. And everyone laughed, and everyone thought it was funny, and it was all nice, and everybody thought it was a really funny thing, and everybody was like, oh, and then it was like, oh, okay, whose side did that come from? Okay, Bill, you're fired, you know, and it was like, oh, shit. And the guy who fired me was the second AD, and then he was the first AD on Superbad, and I showed up, and I was like, remember me, motherfucker? And he goes, I know who you are, and I was like, yeah.
Okay,
and he gave me shit the whole movie.
My favorite part of that means that somewhere
There's
exists footage of a scene in fucking K-Pax where
two
Jeff
apes.
Bridges walks down the street in New York. Taxi! 2 apes.
Yeah, 2 apes walked by. It was 2 guys. To be totally, they were like, the heads were off. They didn't have like, they were like 2 guys walking by, and they went, whoa, like, and they walked out.
They were holding the head apes.
They were holding the head
To be
apes.
fair.
To be fair, to paint a more accurate picture, but it was a thing where I was like, oh. And but when I showed up on Superbad, and then he gave me shit, like it was like I was still. You think that's happened to me twice now, where I've run into ADs that I was a PA for, and I go, hey, I was a PA for you, and then that just sticks. They're not impressed. They're like, oh, awesome, then I can treat you like shit, you know. Yeah. And Scott, there's a scene in Superbad where I have to stop a car at the end. I have to stop, and it's the hardest thing in the world.
Yeah, an exact
stop
point.
an exact mark.
Yeah,
You
without
do it.
looking at the thing.
Without looking at a mark, and it's like the focus is just right, and you had to stop on a mark, and I had to do it like 20 times.
Sure.
And he was like, "Come on, man!" Like, you know, you've never seen an AD talk to an actor like that. Like, you fucking idiot! Come on, all right, back to one, everybody. Keep it rolling. No, keep it rolling. He's gonna get this. You fucking idiot! Come on, all right, let's go. And I'm like, God.
Do you think you can do it this time, Bill?
Yeah, so that's like, God, what has gotten into him? He's never talked to me like that.
That was upset.
Yeah, so I was like, whoa, Jesus. Why is he yelling at you?
It's your speaking of getting fired, it's your story of getting fired from the theater because the sorority girls.
Oh, Titanic.
If you wouldn't mind. Because what you said to them, the way you spoiled. You give the setup first.
Well, I was working at Centerpoint Movie Theater in Tempe, Arizona.
Sure.
This is 1997 or early 1998, and I, at the time, had very, very long hair and a beard, and I tore tickets at the movie theater, a bow tie, cummerbund, everything. And the sorority had rented out the theater to see Titanic, and they were just kind of like congregating in the front there, and I was going like, hey, you guys got to move. And they were just being dickheads to me, like, you know, like, we're waiting for our friends, and like, you know, I just didn't, it just sucked, you know. And I'm sitting there staring at them, and they were being rude. So then finally, all their sorority was there, and they're like, all right, let's go, everybody. And so they come in, and as I tear the tickets, I'm like, enjoy the movie. Leo dies at the end, the boat sinks, and I just gave away the whole ending of the movie.
You think he's passed out?
And I go, they go, Leo doesn't die, and I go, no. You think he's sleeping, but he's frozen. I go, and the old lady, that's Kate Winslet. She's got the diamond that Bill Paxton's looking for, and at the end, she throws it into the fucking water. Enjoy the movie. Fuck you. Like, just like, and then I remember my manager came over, and he was this guy who was kind of like, hey, man. And he was like, did you just tell them the end of Titanic? I go, yeah. And he goes, oh, I have to fire you. His eyes just like a half man. I was like, oh, I have to fire you. I was terrible at that job. I remember one time I would just, because you're not allowed to bring food in. That was a big, but you can't bring food into the theater.
Contraband, we call it.
Yeah, contraband. And you couldn't bring food into the theater. And then I remember one time I wasn't paying attention, and a guy, this is no joke, a guy brought a wedding cake. And this guy, and he had his tickets in his mouth, and he was like, and I was like, I gave him the thing, and the guy walked in with a wedding cake. And then everybody was like, why are you bringing the fucking wedding cake to see He Got Game? You know? And the guy was like, I had time to kill. Do you have a freezer for this? And the people at concessions were like, no, get this out of here. Take it home. Go see the 4:30 showing. Like, you don't need to see. Like,
I had time to kill.
He goes, I had time to kill. I live out in like Gilbert, and I don't want to like drive back and like all this stuff. And so, yeah, he wanted to see He Got Game, and he had, yeah. And they're like, Bill, and you just tore his tickets. I was like, he paid. I don't, you know.
That was my first job in a movie theater, and I constantly got in trouble. I worked concessions, and I was always getting in trouble for not upselling, like for a quarter
it's the
more.
worst. Don't you feel like a jerk doing it?
Because I feel like a jerk, because I'm like, you know what you want, and it's like, and I hate when people do it to me, because then you have to be like, no thanks, I just want the small, and then so that's how I got fired. Like, I did it too many times in a row, and they're like, get out. You're done.
I was the same way. I had a really hard time upselling people. It bothered me.
Yeah, because it bothered more so.
Morally...
Yeah, because right, like I felt like I was imposing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And also, you know, somewhere in your mind that the theater doesn't need to steal like this.
No, it's like I see it on the look on the people's face, like at Barnes and Noble or something. It's like, do you have a Barnes and Noble card? And I'm like, no, you don't have to say this.
Yeah,
we don't have to say this.
Can you get an email from you?
It's
no,
like, can I get an
can't.
email? Yeah, but they just look like I have a gun to my head. I have to say this.
Your phone number,
please. What's your social security? Quick.
Yeah. I wonder if the Nazis work the same way. I hate to trouble you, but...
I hate to trouble you, but can you give me all your information?
Yeah, we're going to need the gold from your teeth.
Can I scan your retina real quick?
To get these Raisinets, can I scan your retina real quick?
Speaking of Raisinets, was it the theater where a very young, shaky, nervous Michael Bay?
Yeah, Michael Bay came up to me, and he was the first test screen of Armageddon. He was very nervous, and he bought, I think, Raisinets. Yeah, I was at concessions, and I was like, hey. And then he was like, hey. You know?
Hope this goes well.
Yeah, I hope this goes well.
I hope to be a dick pretty soon.
Yeah, yeah. I remember seeing him once. This is a funny. So I met him then, and then years later, the Lonely Island guys got invited to the Playboy Mansion.
Sure.
And one of them didn't go. He couldn't go, or for some reason. And so Andy was like, "Do you want to go?" And I turned to my wife, and she was like, "You gotta go to the Playboy Mansion. Like, that's hilarious. You know, go." And so we went to the Playboy Mansion. And the Playboy Mansion, we went there, and it was like some party, and it was literally me and Akiva Schaffer drinking coffee over in the corner and talking about what aspect ratio he was going to shoot Hot Rod in. I was like, if they'll go anamorphic, man, you should shoot anamorphic. It looks fucking
tits.
Awesome. Yeah, tits. And yeah, whoa. But we were so like not, you know.
Yeah.
And then I saw a friend there, and he introduced me to Michael Bay, and he was like, hey. Michael Bay, and Michael
He's in
Bay,
a bathrobe,
and he was like, "Hey," and he goes, "This guy is the new guy on SNL," and blah, blah, and he goes, "You don't look funny,"
Oh,
like that,
God.
like out of the gate, and I go, "Oh, well, what?" and I just played stupid. I go, are you an actor? Or are you, what do you do? And he was like, he went, I'm a director. And I was like, oh, cool. What did you direct? And he goes, come on.
He has that ego.
Yeah, but I was like, right on, man. And then like, I was like, all right. And then he kind of like just, like, and then he was very nice and kind of said the movies that he directed and everything. But it was a funny moment where he just went, come on, like you fucking know who I am, man. You can't work in comedy and not know who I am.
Yeah.
But and then we actually had a nice conversation. But it was a funny, like, it didn't look funny. I was like, out of the gate.
Yeah, there must have been some surprising moments over the years about who was you thought was going to be a dickhead and wasn't, and those people surprise you on both sides of that. I opened up with talk about Skeleton Twins, and now we've taken forever to get back to it. The film opened September 8th, I want to say, at a theater near you.
Yep.
We do ask people to, you heard me perhaps at the outset, to write in, tweeted earlier about offering up some questions, or one of the versions of questions we have here is a series of 5 rapid fire questions that are specifically designed for you by the audience. They've come in through the chat room, and Jamie has forwarded them to me. These 5 rapid fire questions are called a Tweet 5.
Team 5, Team 5, Team 5 forever now.
Thank you, Dave Keckner. This one from Francis Kelly. Hey, these are Coke or Pepsi, no correct answer.
Okay.
Just designed for you. Jonah Hill or Michael Cera?
Oh.
Exactly. Sophie's choice, gun to their head.
Oh. I love them both.
Yep.
I gotta say Mike for
James
now because I haven't seen him in a while.
Okay. So he's dead. James Carvell or John Malkovich?
James Carville.
Meatwad or Frylock?
Meatwad.
Come on.
Yeah.
What are we talking about?
Yeah.
South Park or the Venture Brothers?
Oh, South Park.
Professor Impossible or the Flying Squid?
Well, I like Professor Impossible.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
People are, through the research, fascinated with you landing at South Park because of the documentary. I think that was the first time a lot of people found out that you'd been working there. So let's go to a piece of that people may not know that I saw in the research that I was instantly fascinated by, which is the South Park retreat. Because it sounded like the most chill environment possible to break stories for a new season.
Yeah, it's kind of, it's like, a friend of mine says like comedy Mensa camp or something. It's like, for me, going to that place, like I've said before with the writing, it was it's like jokes, is one thing, but structure is another thing I was trying to learn, of, like how to structure these things. And they're like the geniuses at it. Matt and Trey are absolute geniuses at it, and learning how much of it's just instinctual, but there are rules that they kind of will apply logic. How much like logic plays into it, and how much emotion plays into it was really fascinating to me. You think South Park, and you just remember like the big jokes, but all they talk about is the emotion of things. Connection, and like no, but the emotion that we're dealing with here is he wants this, or someone is feels bad about blah, whatever. But those retreats are a blast.
Specifically, example I thought of that was the way you explained the way Matt read an article about the NCAA and how the players weren't paid, and yet the NCAA makes $1 gazillion from video games now. So the sketch was Cartman wants to own slaves the way that the NCAA does, and goes to them for advice. Yeah,
he goes to a college. Yeah, and he was like, and the thing that me and Vernon Chapman I think pitched at was that he's like you should go as a plantation owner. Right. And like, I understand you got some boys here, and he's got like a fan, and like, and he's looking at the basketball team. But the way it happens is like Matt stands at one thing and he just goes, "This is bullshit. I just watched a front line on it," and he's just going off. Right. And Trey paces in circles around us. So we're all sitting, and Trey's pacing. Like De Niro's Al Capone and Untouchables,
And you're just to smash in.
Just like no, but he's kind of pacing, thinking, and then
he sees the Matrix.
and then it's like this mental Tetris thing of like, and then he goes, okay, so Carmen wants slaves, so he goes to college. So it's just this logical thing. So you go to a college to get slaves, and they turn them away. So then. Crack babies, the correlation between, like, it's just this thing of like crack baby football. Okay, what's crack baby football? He needs the rules for crack baby, and it's just this long thing, and you just watch Trey kind of go off, and you're like, whoa. And then Vernon Chapman is kind of like the quiet assassin genius that the whole room is kind of just playing to him because he's very quiet, but he's like so smart and perceptive that if he laughs or he's like, yeah, that's it, then it's like we're all like, it's like, okay, let's go.
We're good now.
But Vernon, the first episode I think I worked with on South Park was the Kanye West fish stick episode where he thinks the joke about fish sticks, and then Kanye doesn't get the joke, and he thinks people think he's a gay fish. And there was a part in the episode where we were writing it, and I remember it was at the retreat where we go, okay, so there was a fish sticks joke. Everyone knew it was a joke except Kanye West, because we were like, he doesn't have a sense of humor, and so it was like he actually thought people thought he sucked fish sticks. And he's like, I am not a gay fish. I'm not a gay fish. This is bullshit. Go find out who made this joke about me. And so the people come back and they go, we found the guy who made the joke. And so we were all kind of going, okay, so they found Cartman because Cartman made up the joke. Okay, so they go downstairs and there's Cartman. And they come in, and then Vernon goes, well, instead of Cartman, what if it was Carlos Mencina? And we all went, and then Vernon just went off because he was known for stealing jokes.
Yeah.
So it was Carlos Mencina, and he was going like, my dick don't work, man, and like all this shit. And they'd beat him up and everything. And that's like what Vernon does. Like that is like that like he just quietly listens and goes, this is what it needs. It's like the John Cleese thing of what Graham Chapman would bring to like the parrot sketch initially was going to be about a car,
right.
And like this car doesn't work. And he goes, what if it's a parrot instead of a car? Like that guy in the room
right.
who just makes everything go, oh, now it's like really memorable, that's Vernon.
Now we've punched through the ridiculous.
Yeah, now he got to this thing, and he's I think an unsung hero in comedy.
I know you
Chapman.
did 2 seasons. Did you do the one that's about to start again?
Yeah, I've been doing Retreat since 2008.
Right.
And then last season, I worked on the whole season as a writer. And then this season, no, I haven't because I've been shooting a movie.
Yes. How much of a transition from the way that the president of Hollywood made fun of Bill Hader so eloquently? What's the line? He says, you come into the movie and then...
He says, he's great if you need a friend to ask the exposition question in a movie.
Yeah.
He says, wait, you're not just going to follow her to Hawaii, are you? Yes, Bill. Now fuck off for the rest of the movie.
That's how you reduced your own film career.
Yeah, that is kind of, yeah.
But I imagine Skeleton Twins, so... does your head explode when you see how real and authentic of a person you're being asked to portray, and having done mostly arch or silly?
Well, it's something that I always wanted to do, It was a thing like, how it kind of started was I asked my agent, I was like, I would like to do a drama, and he said,
oh, here we go, another
great.
funny person who wants to do a drama.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I said, well, I'd like to do a drama, and he said, well, you know what, he had a great idea. He said, no one can see you that way because they only really know you from SNL and movies, like these movies. So what if I go to casting directors, and you go to a casting director, and they'll do a casting director will do a table read for a movie that doesn't have funding yet. Producers just want to hear it read out loud.
Right.
And I'll find a casting director who's doing a drama, and you go in and do some table reads, and they'll show these casting directors you can do this. And
that is a great idea.
And it was a great idea. And the first one I went into was A.V. Kaufman, casting director, had me come in, and it was a drama. Don't remember what the movie was, but it was Kate Winslet, Bradley Cooper, Paul Dano, and Greta Gerwig, and me. And I was just like, hi. It was like Kate Winslet. I was very, you know, it was just cool getting to like sit across from a table from her and watch her just cold read a script, and she's, you know, amazing. But from that table read, Avi Kaufman then is doing Skeleton Twins, and then they were going out with names for Milo. And she said, you know who's like a real weird offbeat choice, but he just came in here and was really good in this table read, and it was me. And Craig Johnson was like, really? You know, the director. And so Craig and I met each other, and he just was like, yeah, what a cool idea. This is a cool idea. He had a totally different, totally different way of going with it. And so I signed on in 2010. And then 2 years later, we had another actress attached. She fell out. The money, it was that thing of 2 years of emailing, like, what's going on with Skeleton Twins? It's like, we have the money. We have the money. It's like, money just fell through. We have the money. We don't have the money. Initially, the whole movie took place in Santa Fe, and then they're like, now it's going to be in upstate New York. I said, that's great, whatever. And then they said, Kristen, what about Kristen for your sister? And I was like, well, will she do it? Bridesmaid just came out. I think she's, you know. And Kristen called me and said, oh, I would love to do this movie if you'll have me, only if you'll have me. And I was like, are you fucking kidding? Yes, you know. And so she agreed to it. And then once she came on, it was like, we got the money, everything's ready to go. Yeah. We're shoot like in 2 months. You know, it was like that fast. Suddenly everything started moving really fast.
I don't know if she had done drama like that before either.
Yeah, well, she did Hate Ship, Love Ship, and then she did Girl Most Likely, which had some dramatic stuff in it.
Right.
But I felt very lucky coming into this experience and doing this movie with her, because I could be very vulnerable with her, and I had never, you know, it was just a new thing. It was just a totally new thing for me, you know. But kind of the way, you know, you show up at SNL, and what I learned at SNL, like being very pragmatic about stuff and kind of just not getting it. I get ahead of myself and kind of like, and then I get lost, you know. Right. It was like, let's just take this step by step and just see, you know. And
well, how did you feel organically about the less is more, less is more? Because it is at times an unbelievably small, nuanced performance.
Yeah.
They have a couple of performance pieces without giving anything away, which you look and you go, okay, well that's going to be that. And then these unbelievably quiet moments where you just have to be.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for me, with no formal acting training whatsoever, those moments where you just have to be, I actually found to be the most comforting.
Yeah.
Because as it turns out, that's all I can do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is not act.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there are people who go to
That's
class
a great way of
and
putting
study for 20 years to learn how to be present.
Yeah.
And not get caught acting.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, well, I can't act, so this will be easy.
Yeah.
I'll just be.
That's a great way.
But for people who have thrived on such a giant stage like you have, or Will, we talked about Nebraska, and he loves the silly and the crazy, as we talked about before. The notion of just being still.
Yeah.
Did that come easily, or were you able to get out of your own way quickly?
Yeah. Actually, I really relate to what you were just saying. Is that it was comforting.
Right.
And I love, it was a thing that I kind of just, it happened naturally. I was very lucky that on this movie, the first 3 days of shooting was with Ty Burrell, and those scenes are pretty intense.
Right.
And he, you know, he is a very classically trained actor, and having at the end of the first day him going, what you're doing is really great, just meant the world to me.
Sure.
It gave me so much confidence. He was like, I see what you're doing, it's really great.
He was probably surprised.
He was like, this is really good. And what we're doing is great, you know. These scenes feel really good.
Yeah, those scenes had to be nailed. It's interesting that they were the first.
That was the first thing out of the gate, and we have like a very weird relationship in the movie. And but we would do this thing where you would kind of start improvising stuff before, like, before we're like
Right before action?
Yeah, right before action, and that always was really helpful. Where they would say, "All right, here we go," and then the clapper goes up. You're already kind of doing the scene, and you're kind of talking, and then you would just kind of roll in, and then he would say the first line, and then we're into it, and then so it was this kind of very easy-going thing where you're like. It was like this buffer of getting out of your head, and like the crew kind of goes away and everything. You're just talking with somebody, and then it just kind of happens. And it was just like that. Like I was like, oh, that's cool. Like this feels really nice. And so that kind of carried. I started, just little things like that I was like learning from people like him, and things Kristen was doing that was really great. It was really helpful, and also kind of like. Going into a scene and, the character that Ty plays in the movie is essentially my first love in my life. My character's the first love of his life was Ty's character. And that was always, but I was like, but it was like a high school romance, And so like that delineate, it's like you'd have, so those scenes, if you watch them, it's kind of like a high school romance. But it's two grown men talking to each other. So it's like they're stuck in this kind of thing, and Ty and I would talk about that, you know what I mean? And it was like, those kind of conversations and those kind of, and that kind of work I just was loving. I was coming home every day going like, waking my wife up, going like, we just had the best day, because, I was just so excited, to be doing that kind of work.
Yeah.
So it was fun. It would make it was just different. And also I was doing the show while I was shooting the movie.
Jesus.
Which was hard. So I was like coming in and dressed up as like a game show host, being like, oh, we shot my suicide attempt today. And we did a thing with Martin Short where I was Kate Middleton's gynecologist. We were rehearsing that scene. We rehearsed that scene the day I shot my suicide attempt, which is the opening of the movie, and it was just like, and Martin was like, "You did what today?" He was like, "Oh my God, I have to go upstate and give him 2 hours of pow, and then I'm gonna." That's what he said to me. Where were you? I was upstate giving him 2 hours of pow, and then God, he's one of the funniest guys in the world.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. So it was a weird experience. It was definitely it was hard, but it was very, very gratifying. I was like, I don't know how this movie's going to turn out, but man, that was awesome.
Well, all the newness and the freshness and the challenge of stepping outside of your comedic comfort zone into a whole brave new world is exhilarating and exciting and informative and unlike anything you've done. So personally, it's so incredible and fantastic that there's no way to step back and say, oh, this whole movie works.
Yeah.
There's no way, because you're going through your own tunnel of awakening almost.
Yeah.
The sense at Sundance, which was that the first public?
That was the first. You were at the very first public screening of it, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't help but stand up, and yes, I announced who I was to draw attention to myself for a few seconds first. But I asked a genuine question, which was of the director, Craig Johnson, how he could trust that you were the right choice for this. It's always because it's a lead. It's not just, well, let's move you into the dramatic acting world gradually.
Yeah,
the way I was fortunate enough to come in. He said, here's a guy who's a big fucking gun in the history of Saturday Night Live, whether you're aware of that or not. That's something that Craig Johnson is acutely aware of. And I'm going to put the comedic lead of a very nuanced performance in his hands. And so I just had to ask him, how and when did you know?
Yeah, that was very sweet. That was like the highlight of my whole Sundance experience. I don't know if you know that, but when you said that, my wife started crying. My wife
Check
cried.
that off the bucket list.
Yeah, my wife was like, oh my God. Because I just to give you a sense, that morning, I had like a bit of a panic attack. It was like this thing hit me where I woke up and I was like, people aren't going to accept this. Like, what if people don't accept? It's like you get to Sundance and then suddenly this
it's a
weird
world stage.
It suddenly hit me, seeing everybody there and everything. It was like, oh, if people don't accept this, we were going to know immediately.
In a big way.
In a big way, and. I normally don't watch. I don't like watching myself. I don't like. That's just like it's like I watch things once and then I go, okay, good. I can talk about it now. I see what made the cut. I'm gonna like not watch because I get I can't see through the stuff, and so I was like, but I just from nerves, and then our driver got lost.
Perfect.
It was like those festival drivers. They're like, hey man, no, I'm from Salt Lake. And I'm like, where are you fucking going? And people are calling you, going like, we're starting in 5 minutes. Where are you? And he's like, oh no, where are we going? And
Jamie, how many of those did we have? The drivers
oh, it was
who
the
couldn't
worst.
find their fucking way around.
Oh, it was
at Sundance.
Oh, it was
Oh,
the
and then
worst.
it was just really difficult to get in and out of. But I think my biggest complaint was also Jenny Slate's biggest complaint. You never got to eat. You were
Yeah, you
always
never ate.
You are always starving. You would constantly go to these parties and they would plow you with alcohol, but we're like, okay,
Where's the food?
Where's the food? I'm starving.
Yeah, we. I remember I had Cliff Bars in my. I just
Yeah,
kept Cliff
I was
Bars
eating
in my
like
thing,
sandwiches from movie concessions.
It was
I
awful but you were. So I rushed in and they were like, "We're starting the screen right now," you know. And then I just ran out and went across the street and just sat with with two of my agents.
So you didn't sit to watch the audience's reaction?
No, but
because
then
that
my
was-
wife texted me going, "Get in here, it's killing." And I went, "It's killing? It's not funny. It's not like a funny movie." And then she was like, "It's killing," like all caps, like, "Get back in here."
And did you?
No, I was too nervous. But I walked back slowly and very tentatively, like kind of like walked up the stairs. And then the owner of the theater came down and went, "Congratulations," and then walked past me, and I was like, "Well," and I came out, and then the doors open, and the first two, and then I saw Luke Wilson. He was also outside, and he was like, "Yeah, I've been hearing a lot of laughter in there, and I think we made a comedy." Like, he was kind of like, "Yeah, people are dying laughing in there," and I was like, "Oh," and then yeah, it was a very sweet thing. Like then going up and doing the Q&A, and then you saying that just was like 2010 to that moment, like my own like fear of I don't know if fears, but yeah, not knowing like how people were going to accept you, and you saying that and getting an applause thing just meant the world. So thank you for that.
You're not wrong to be fearful, because there are giant examples, Jim Carrey and Adam Sandler, when these great comedy stars try to do what they want to do in their heart, which is meaningful performances, meaningful stories. Their audience are basically like, "Fuck you!" I mean, like angry, not just unaccepting.
Yeah.
But protesting in the streets.
Yeah, I mean the thing is like I love comedy, and I mean I just did the new Judd Apatow, Amy Schumer movie, which is a big comedy, like capital C comedy. It's really funny, but I love drama too. You know, it's like you can swerve. I mean, if you know, if you like, you know, if you want, if you can afford to, if people accept you,
Well,
you know, you can. Try
Skeleton
to
Twins is the gateway drug to whatever you want to try next.
Oh,
because, yeah, I mean, I don't know how many reviews come from Sundance like that. I imagine a small handful. But yeah, your people certainly must feel like
They were very happy.
You're all in the precipice.
I remember James Ponsoldt, who directed The Spectacular Now, which I really liked. We were still in the theater, and he texted me, and he was like, "Whoa, Twitter's blowing up about Skeleton Twins." And I was like, we were like in the middle of the Q&A, and I like glanced down, and I was like, Jesus, this is fast.
Yeah.
But it was a nice thing being a part of the conversation of that year. It was Whiplash, Skeleton. Like people were talking about both those movies a lot, and it was. I was happy for Craig too, because he's such a good guy, and he's so.
And you know the journey he'd been through since 2010. Also.
He had been working his ass off to try to get this movie made, and I'd never seen someone with such a tight schedule, no money, and being so kind of like, yeah, guys, like just so great with the actors and the crew, and we had such a great crew on this movie. Reed, our DP, was just phenomenal, and everyone was so respectful and like fans of the movie. That's what was cool, is being a really small crew like that. Like Kristen and I, we have a scene at the very end of the movie that is kind of, you know, this argument, and our sound guy was crying during it. He got really emotional because he was so wrapped up in the movie, and he was like, "This is so sad, you guys." Like, oh, you know, and you know, it was really nice to have.
Because usually,
Have that.
you know, it's Teamsters holding a donut, waiting for the next break.
Are you done crying?
You know, or whatever.
Hey Nancy, go put on your skirt.
Please,
We're on break.
Jesus. Get some lipstick for Nancy over here.
No, but Craig was such a like a you know, kind of like a Boy Scout leader, kind of like, come on guys, it's gonna go, it's gonna be fun. And I mean, there's a scene in the movie where I'm stoned and I walk through all these pigeons and they fly up in the air. You know, sorry, probably ducks, and they all fly up in the air. And I remember it was so emblematic of the movie. So they all flew away, and then we were like, "Can we do a take two?" And everybody on the crew and the cast all got bread, and we all like threw it out to try to get the ducks to come back to do another take. And there's this great picture of everyone out there throwing bread down and and they all came back, and they're like, "Quick, quick, quick, do another take!" And we did another take, and me walking through, and they all flew up again, and it was just it was a great feeling making that one. It was a lot of fun.
Trainwreck is the Judd Apatow, Amy Schumer.
Yeah, she's the real deal, man.
Yeah, she is.
She's like a classically trained actor who did stand-up, and so that's what I learned a lot from her making that movie too. She was so good. I mean, from the rehearsals, you were like, whoa.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I think she's really gonna surprise people. She did a scene in this movie where after it ended, Tilda Swinton's in the movie. She was on off camera, and Tilda Swinton was like, we were all crying. We were all just like, what the fuck? Like, I did not know she could do that, you know?
Right.
So I think
she made such a presence, or has made a very quick presence of a brash, honest comedy from a woman's perspective that, you don't know there's acting chops behind that.
She has it, and she's a hard worker. Again, it's that thing that I always say, that Steve Martin book, Born and Standing Up. If I had read that when I was 15, I would have gone into comedy way earlier because of like the logical way of just approaching this, and him saying kind of like, I don't have any special skills. I just like worked really hard at these things. Yeah. Amy Schumer would writing, producing, starring in this movie, very much involved with everything. And on the weekend, she would go up at the Cellar, like 3 spots at the Cellar, you know, Friday and Saturday night. And I remember going out and hanging out with her one night, and before she goes, she has her DVD from last week, and she puts it in and watches her set and writes notes down, like just trying to get better, like, ugh, and just like, well, maybe I'll try this, maybe I'll try that. And yeah, she's going on the road right now. Like, she just busts her ass. And I was like, yeah, it takes a lot of fucking work.
Put in your 10,000 hours.
You gotta just keep working at it. And it's just, she's a total testament to that, but a lot of people that, you know, I get stopped all the time, you know, by people going, oh, how do you get into this stuff? And I was like, you just have to like work really hard, just get up a lot, you know, and never stop working. Not be like, it'd be very easy for her to be like, I have my own show on Comedy Central, I just starred in a Judd Apatow movie, I'm good. You know what I mean? Yeah. And she doesn't. She's like just honing her stuff all the time. She was really, really, everyone, that was a talk on that movie, was how impressed everyone was with her.
Well, yes, it is a matter of not being satisfied for a moment. And for some people, it becomes a little bit of an illness. Mm-hmm. But it is the only way to stand above everyone else. Yeah. How did you do it? I just worked harder.
Yeah.
And the way they say a writer writes, well, that's just to improve.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. You have to keep doing it, because then you'll hit some weird breakthrough where you go,
oh. Here's a very interesting question at Juan Kach, or Catch, K-A-C-H.
That person's so pissed off right now.
Right. Fucking asshole.
It's Catch.
It's one of our T5 bots on Twitter.
From Twitter, I often have to invent creative words when I want to swear because of my daughter. Do you create around your kids? Do you get creative around your kids?
No, I curse.
You just say, fuck you?
Yeah, and it's bad. Yeah, and it's spreading. Yeah. I'm like, God fucking damn it. Like, I'm just, probably even this morning, my 4-year-old's sick right now, and the 2-year-old wants to play with the 4-year-old, and so it's like keeping them apart. So the 4-year-old's like quarantined, so I'm sure there's been a lot of cursing this morning, you know, like, no, fucking in there, no! Your sister's puking, she's puking, shit, god damn it, you know, it's all that, yeah.
So you read them go the fuck to bed?
Yeah, go fuck to bed is like one of the funniest. It's like, why was that not around when I was a kid? Like, that's such a, again, that's like such a funny idea. And so simple, I like that.
Yeah. Okay, so I know you're not on Twitter. Have you purposely avoided the whole world with a...
Yeah, I mean, I think because I think it would become like a drug to me. Like, I would just get really into it, and I found, okay, I went to John Mulaney's wedding, and a woman came up to me and said, oh, I follow all your fan Tumblr things and other sites, and I was like, what are you talking about? And she's like, yeah, I'm on Fuck Yeah Bill Hader, this thing called Fuck Yeah Bill Hader. And I was like, oh. So I went and checked it out, and it's like, it's really funny. They give me a lot of shit on it, but it's actually hilarious, and it's, you know, worthy and stuff. So that's probably the closest thing I have to a Twitter. It's like going like this girl's fan site, and I'll look at it and go, oh, where'd that picture come from? Yeah, I don't really do. That's probably the closest. And I don't think I'll probably go back there again. I just checked it out at John's wedding, and I was like, did you see this? And he's like, yeah. Did you see the one about, because there's another one about how badly I dressed. I talked about that on Conan. I don't know if you've seen that. Bill Hader needs new clothes.
No.
It's wonderful.
Is this a website dedicated to you or just a Twitter account?
It's a
Tumblr.
It's a whole Tumblr about
So they cough up photographs?
how I basically just wear the same thing in every interview, and it's so true. And
Yeah, but you're no Jason Mantzoukas. Jason Mantzoukas wears the same outfit every day.
he does?
Yes.
Every day of his
White
life.
Jeans, white collared
shirt?
white.
Yeah,
collared shirt,
white collared
jeans.
shirt, jeans, every day.
He's the Mark Twain,
Yeah.
the Albert Einstein.
Then Alfred Hitchcock.
8 outfits.
Sam Raimi.
Sam Raimi, yeah, only wears the suit, right?
And now Bill Hader.
Yeah, and so I always have the same thing on. And so, yeah. But that's probably the closest to any sort of like me on the internet that I've like dipped my toe in, was kind of looking at that going, oh, all right. And then I kind of go away from it.
Now, we believe here at the Chat Show, you don't have to be on Twitter to enjoy the game that's sweeping the nation. Since you've played game show host, as you pointed out a number of times, we're curious how you do as a contestant for this perhaps historic version of
Dude just stood up
of
over
who
here.
tweeted.
Celebrities have so much to say.
Who tweeted?
Is the game we're gonna play.
My knees, and it's like, am I going to do it?
It's a waterboarding game. Sam,
Yeah.
tell us how it works.
You know,
Yeah.
you said sweeping the nation. We've been doing this 5 years now. This fucker has swept the nation.
Thank you.
Yeah.
At least Culliver's Boulevard.
We are. It is past tense time. So the game is who tweeted, and it's exciting.
Okay.
Here's how the game works. You're going to be playing against Kevin.
Okay.
In
I'll
a
say.
heads-up fight to the death.
Yeah.
I'm going to
Seems
read
odd.
Weird.
one,
Can I make some phone calls if I lose?
maybe, one at a time. I'm going to read a series of 8 tweets. And all of these tweets were written by one of 3 people, and the 3 people that Jamie has gone with today are all 3 people that were lampooned on South Park during your tenure there.
Oh, okay.
So today we'll be dealing with
The tweets of,
James Cameron,
great,
Vince McMahon,
genius,
and the aforementioned Kanye West.
perfect. So you're going to read, he's going to read 8 tweets one at a time.
Yep. And when you feel like you know who wrote that tweet, you ring in by saying your own name. I'll point to you, and then you will have 3 seconds to say either James Cameron, Vince McMahon, or Kanye West.
Okay.
And they're carefully chosen by Jamie so that it's not.
This one was I did a little extensive research on this
So that
one.
it's
I
not-
was very excited about the theme.
I'm bad at games. So.
Don't worry, this is, from the best I can tell from the ones we're going with, you're mostly going to be guessing the both of you.
Okay.
She tries to make them not obvious as to which
okay.
one it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you ring and you get it right, you get yourself 5 points. You ring and you get it wrong, you lose 3. And once someone rings in, there's no second chances. You either get it or you don't. And at the end of 8 tweets, unless there's a tie, The winner will be walking out with that $20 bill.
With a standing piece of paper worth $20.
That's insane.
We don't fuck around here.
Does he get any additional points for being early, not tardy, as a guest? We'll see at the end.
We will see at the end.
Okay.
We will see at the end. And as always, you will get 1 bonus point for any answer you ring in and give as a beloved character from your past. Either of you.
Okay.
Tweet number 1.
Oh, there's a bonus for both of us if we answer as the
As some beloved character from your past. Here we go.
A new edition of the
Yep,
show.
I was mixing it
Okay.
up. Tweet number 1. I'd like to address the false stories and noise that have been engineered by the media.
Kevin, Kanye West.
Yes, Mr. Walken, that is correct.
Wow.
Thank you. It felt like Kanye, I'll be honest with you. I don't understand West, East, what have you, but Kanye, for sure. It's 5 Zippo.
Technically 6. Technically 6. Tweet number 2.
Well, that's right, I got a point for doing Walken. All right, 6.
I wasn't in Brazil for fun. I was there to help tribal people fight the dams that are going to destroy their homes and forest.
Bill. James Cameron.
That is correct.
Oh, good.
Also 6 points. Is
6 points.
that Carville that squeaked out?
Yeah.
The
Sounded like
in
it.
the 11th.
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of, I forgot the rule as it was happening.
And just a reminder, because I know that it's James Cameron, Vince McMahon, Kanye
Vince
West.
McMahon.
Just wanted to remind you
I
guys.
did
That's what we're
literally
dealing
forget
with.
the third one.
Okay.
All right.
Tweet number 3. Partying with @I am Diddy. Partying.
Well, it
Seems painfully obvious.
but that's
Kevin, I'm gonna go a little off the beaten path here. It's Yeah, no, it's Vince McMahon.
That is
a
correct,
wrestling.
Mr. Arkin.
They were at a wrestling party, and P. Diddy was there because of some special vodka that he was promoting. Am I right?
That is correct.
Okay.
That is correct, Mr. Arkin. Although you did technically violate the 3-second rule, but I'll allow it because you're very old.
Couldn't remember his fucking name.
You're very old and you're a living legend. I'll allow it.
Thank you.
If it helps to think of it like Stone Cold Steve Austin would say it to it, Vince McMahon. Does that help?
right. Yeah, that's good. That's great. That's good.
Thank you.
Tweet number 4. Marketing genius. NBA puts Twitter handle on basketballs, but you can't see it. Not exactly a marketing genius.
Oh my God. All 3 should be ashamed for writing that.
I have no. Bill, was that Kanye West?
No.
No?
I'm so sorry. That was Vince McMahon.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
That doesn't make
Vince
sense.
McMahon, I
Take it
know.
away.
That's a
Take it
tough
away.
one.
It's all right.
Does that
It's
mean
still
we
the
don't
plus.
we don't have to? I just lost 6.
You,
right?
you just lose 3.
Oh, so
Just 3. It's
there's no
still,
way I
you're
can
still in the
win
plus
anyway.
column. It's a very close game.
There's no way I can win, right? So we can just.
You can still win. You can still win.
We can just stop this.
Oh, we stop this madness?
There's only 17 more.
Yeah, don't worry about
It's
it.
fine.
Tweet number 5.
Yep.
I dread the glare of red carpets, but it's not all bad.
Kevin, I'm going to do Al Pacino as an old black blues player, which I believe he has become. Let's see. I'm going to say Kanye West.
Oh, sorry, no.
Fuck you.
James Cameron.
Wow.
James Cameron, Mr. Pacino.
That was really.
Who?
Oh no.
He did become a black blues player at some point, right?
Carlito's Way, I think, is
Yeah.
what happens.
Everything got slowed down.
I gotta be England all the time.
I found myself yesterday at the grocery store, walking up and down the aisle, and instead of talking to myself as myself, Al Pacino, why doesn't McCormick have the barbecue marinade that I'm looking for? And it was so much more comforting, because I know I'm a lunatic talking to myself, but I'm doing it as Al Pacino, and now it's comforting.
Yeah.
I highly recommend it. I highly recommend it. I see the guacamole. Why don't they have
Who's this?
barbecue?
Dueling Pacinos. Tweet number 6. I never tweeted before because I'm a long-winded blowhard, and they don't allow enough characters.
Kevin McMahon.
Oh, so sorry.
Fuck you.
Also James Cameron.
What?
Yeah, hard to believe.
Look at that, 6-3 all
I was just about to say, it's a 3-point game. It's
yeah.
anyone's game right now.
I could just not say shit.
I'll just cancel myself out.
Do what Sam does in Doug. I love movies.
Wait
Just
for
don't say
someone
it and wait for somebody else to answer.
I hate that. You clearly do not listen to the show.
No, isn't that what you do? You always say name the movie, and then they can't.
Never.
Then
I never say name that movie. I abhor people who use that strategy.
Oh, wow.
I thought that used to be your strategy.
Never.
No.
I
Never.
did it once and we saw him do it.
Maybe
All right.
one time. Tweet
Next.
number 7.
Two left.
This is not another robot movie.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
Robot is in quotes. This is not another robot movie.
Well, again, it's really obvious, but it's probably not. Was that Bill? Was it Kanye West?
Yes, it was.
Oh, I can't do it with the microphone. I was trying. That was my Herb Welch voice.
I knew it was Herb Welch.
Okay,
Now you're suddenly ahead.
No, it's this is amazing. It's
Rope-a-dope.
9-6.
Rope-a-dope. Rope-a-dope
8-6,
works again.
right? No, it's 9-6. Oh, this is so exciting.
what's
Oh,
gonna
that was
happen?
right.
Because that was Herb Welch.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh boy. Well, right now, the 8th and final tweet is gonna play large. If you ring in and get it, you are the winner. If you ring in and get it, you're the winner. If you ring in and miss it,
It's a tie.
it's a tie. And if
shit.
you ring in and miss it,
Bill wins.
Bill wins. Oh, this is it. This is it. And I got to tell you guys, it's a great 8th and final tweet. Work hard, play hard. Let's have a party.
Kevin, now, I don't mean to bother. I really do hate to be tacky, but, and I don't mean to bother you. Can I just say Vince McMahon and see what happens?
Well, Mr. Falk, that is correct.
Oh!
Pulled it out!
Nice.
Pulled it out
Wow.
on the 8th and final
Very good,
tweet.
sir. Very good,
well
sir.
done.
Very
and that
good.
is how you play
Yeah.
Who Tweeted.
Put that back in
nice.
the,
Back
in the
That was
purse.
close.
Put that back
Very
in the
nice.
kitty for next
so
week.
good.
Wow.
That is such a good Peter Falk, man.
You gotta get the eye.
Yeah, it's so good. It's ridiculous.
He accosted me once at the produce section at Ralph's. That's right there on
Really?
the Tonight Show. And said, "How do you do that with your eye?" Me, I understand, but how do you do that?
My friends that used to do him and from like Woman of the Influence. Be like, wacko! You know, like all that stuff where it was like, you know, she would do that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, wacko.
Cannot thank you enough for spending some of your Sunday. Was it just a chance to get away from the sick child?
No, not at all. I love this show and I appreciated what you said at Sundance so much. It really meant a lot, man. So thanks.
Oh,
That was
thank you.
awesome.
Yeah, you said you'd seen the Phil Hendry episode.
Yeah, Phil Hendry's one of my comedy idols, so that was like
Heroes.
Yeah.
And you mentioned something before we got going, which was, because I had notes in here about your first encounter with Bill Murray, and I was going to ask, why is he the most beloved in the history of SNL? And there's 19 reasons, they're all correct.
Yeah.
But he surprised you, adding another reason.
He loves Phil Hendry. Jim Downey called me and said, come over to the Half King, the bar in New York on 10th Avenue. He said, come over, because I live by there. And I went over there, and it was just him and Bill Murray watching a baseball game in the back, and introduced me, and I was like, hey, and that's how he said, hey, Hader loves Phil Hendry, and he goes, oh God, Phil Hendry, and then his sons were there, and we all started talking about Phil Hendry. Yeah, he's obsessed with him. I guess either Bill Murray or his son has a giant hard drive just filled with like almost every Phil Hendry episode.
Right.
And they just go on road trips and just listen to him. And I was a fan. As a PA driving around, I was like, just listening to it all the time. And then I became an assistant editor at this place in Sherman Oaks. And where I worked was 2 floors down from where he recorded his show.
Did you ever sneak in?
And I tried to go up there, and I worked the night shift, and I would try to go up there, and it never worked. But I smoked at the time, and you go out, and he would be smoking, and it was this thing where, like, it was like seeing, I don't know, it was just going, that's Phil.
It's like
That's him
Wolfman Jack
before-
in American Graffiti.
Exactly. That's the perfect example. We were like looking at him going like, that's him. Before a lot of people knew what he looked like.
Yeah.
And I just would stare at him like, that's Phil Henry, holy shit. And he would sit there, be talking with somebody and just bullshitting or whatever. And I just was obsessed. And then that's another thing, talk about the South Park room. We start talking about Phil Henry, or start playing Phil Henry, the whole day is shot. Everyone just, we'll just sit and play. All You Can Eat Negro, when he lost it. Do you hear that one where he completely loses it on air? Where he starts laughing?
No.
It's unbelievable. Look it up, All You Can Eat Negro, where he's a old African-American woman whose nephew died. And she doesn't, a Catholic priest calls in and is like, well, we believe, the body of Jesus. And oh my God, that's a blasphemy. You macking on Jesus and all this stuff. And Phil Henry starts making himself break. And it is hilarious because you hear him laughing on both. Like the whole illusion is broken.
And
it's
an illusion he'd been so prideful from day one.
Where
to
he can
never
cut
break.
himself off, and
Right.
he can cut himself off, and he can do all these things. And when the illusion is broken, it is like one of the most joyous things you've ever heard.
Especially you've been listening.
Forever.
Yeah.
And I think Matt heard it live. Matt said he was in his car and heard it live and was like, oh my God, he broke.
world just shifted.
The world just shifted. He broke, and he heard it on, you hear it on the phone line and on the live studio mic, him laughing. And
Right.
it is like, it's amazing. It's so cool. But no, man, like Herb Welch, that came from me and John Mulaney being obsessed with Herb Sewell, his character Herb Sewell, who's like he's like a child molester. and he's the guy he shoved his wife out of the car on the freeway. And when I shoved her out of the car, her mouth was still moving about some house she saw in La Cañada. That's what he said. and he says, and he's always getting out of jail for doing some awful thing, and he does very little jail time, and his people calling in like, this guy, how is this guy out? I'm a very enthusiastic and prolific child molester. And he was just awful person. Yeah. And he laughed like that. Could you imagine? and that's what was so funny, is it was so clearly, Chris Morris kind of does the same thing, where it's so clearly fake, but people don't see it, and
Right.
it's hilarious to me.
Yeah.
I find that so funny that people will just buy it,
Also at the Bill Murray first experience for you, you were thoughtful enough to ask if Strother Martin had chops.
Yeah, I had chops. I never used that word before in my life. And it was a great moment of trying to impress somebody. I don't know if
Just
you
trying to
relate.
belong,
Just
right?
belong, and you're
Yeah.
just like, I want to belong with Jim. And Jim Downey, arguably the greatest writer in SNL history, probably the greatest writer in SNL history.
Dana certainly swore that.
He's the smartest, funniest human being like ever. And Bill Murray talking, and I'm in between them like this.
And Bill's
and then
talking about how he got Strother Martin.
Strother Martin. Jim was like, you did the most amazing thing ever. In the 70s, you got Strother Martin to host. You convinced Lauren to get Strother Martin to host because they were obsessed with Strother Martin. They just thought he was the best.
Yeah.
And I said, did Strother Martin have chops?
Did you instantly regret it?
Oh my God, immediately. And they didn't pick up. And he's like, oh, Bill Murray's like, oh yeah, no, he was great. He was really funny. But in my head, I was like, and I think Sudeikis was there at that point because I texted him like, I'm with Bill Murray, and he was like, he was like, oh hi, Jason. He might have been there, so he might. I was like, I'm trying to be cool here.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. You want to be present.
Yeah.
You want to not forget anything that comes out of their mouth.
Yeah, because
you
like,
also
this
want
might be
to
the only time I
contribute.
hang out. Yeah. You want to contribute, and then
You end up saying the worst, most banal.
dumbest shit ever, and I just was like, chops. And I remember going home to my wife, I I asked him if Strother Martin had chops, and she goes, what does that even mean? Like,
Remember any of the inane nonsense? Did you get a chance to see Christopher Walken on stage in McDonough's Behanding in Spokane?
No, I didn't.
Sam Rockwell. So I weaseled in backstage, and we went to Walken's dressing room afterwards. And he's taking off his makeup in the mirror while I try to make small talk with Christopher Walken. So has it been an easy run, a great run? I mean, really stupid, the single worst tourist, pedestrian, everything shy of what makeup remover do you use?
exactly.
And he was one-word answers.
Yep.
And we had already
Right.
spent time together before. There was no reason for me to be that guy, and I just had nothing. Do you remember any?
I don't remember anything you said.
Yeah, because it was all instantly
It was
forgettable.
It was nothing memorable.
Yeah.
I was that way. I was at any time I met a new, like one of the older cast members in the show. I remember my third show. I went to the after party and Steve Higgins was like, "Come here, man, someone wants to meet you," and he was really excited. And it was Dan Aykroyd, and Dan Aykroyd was talking to me, and I was the same way, where I was just like, "So that's pretty awesome." Like just saying the dumbest, like, I just can't.
You still drive a motorcycle?
So. Well, how'd you come up with the name House of Blues? Like, just the dumbest shit.
That's a perfect example.
Like, oh, that's cool. And all I remember from that was that he was telling me I needed to get a business manager and that I needed to pay him a flat rate, not a percentage.
Uh-huh.
You need to pay him it was like a flat rate, not a percentage. Bill, listen to me. This is how you do it. Like he was very, and then it was just funny. Like Lauren was like, right? I'm telling him you should pay a business manager a flat rate, not a percentage. Lauren was like, oh no, yeah, you want to pay flat rate because you get a percentage. And I was just like, third show in, like business manager.
Yeah.
I've been living like check to check, but it was he was very sweet,
But it's a weird moment in time though, because I remember Lorraine Newman saying how by midway into the first season of that first year, she saw one day during rehearsal, she said me and Billy, or not Billy, John and Danny, we're talking about what we're going to call our loan out company. Having to come up with the name, and it was more important to be clever than to accept the fact that we were going to now have to be a business.
Yeah.
It is a weird crossover moment.
It is, yeah. It was a strange thing, yeah. But he was very much like Dan Aykroyd. My third episode, he told me essentially what my whole experience at SNL was going to be like. He like nailed it.
Mapped it out
100%. He's like, here's what's going to happen. He's like, the first 3-4 years, you're going to be like, Lauren's going to fire me, and then you'll feel better, and then you'll be the senior, and everyone will, you'll hit your stride and you'll be really happy with your work, and then you'll be clocking in. You'll be just punching in, and then when it hits that, when you're punching in, you should leave. And that's exactly what happened. It was like, he goes, you punch in, you do the thing, and you just leave. And then he was there my last season.
Oh God.
And he goes, how are you doing? And I was like, I think I'm in that, I think I had already told Lauren I was leaving. But I go, yeah, it's that kind of thing where you just know how the show works so well, and it's not that you're not grateful. I don't want to give that. Every show was hard. It wasn't like it became easy for me. But it is kind of like exactly how it works. It's just as far as what you need to do. Oh, I'm a game show host. All right,
Right.
Oh, I have to learn Julian Assange. I remember showing up. Here's Julian Assange. Learn it. And before I'd flip out, and now like, okay, and you go work on it. I go, I'm at that place, I'm leaving. He's like, okay, good. Like he totally remembered our conversation. He's like, told you, So it was very sweet.
Great.
It was very sweet, yeah.
We've had people sit here and talk about the trepidation of having that conversation with Lauren.
Yeah.
How was that?
It was awful. Awful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I told him in February. I told him way early.
What you put yourself through before the conversation.
Yeah.
That's the awful part.
Yeah, it's kind of like.
Is it weeks? Is it months?
It was, we decided, my wife and I sat down and I said, well, we want to live in LA. She had directed a movie and then she was getting offers to direct stuff and like TV, and she directed episodes of that show Silicon Valley and some stuff. And so she was like, well, I got to go out to LA. We have 2 kids. I'd really like to have a yard, I'd like to have some more space. And I was like, yeah, Kristen and Andy have left. I have a feeling Fred might leave. I don't know. And so, it seems like my tenure, Mulaney had left. Like, it was like everyone was kind of leaving. So like, all right, I'm going to leave. And I remember calling my agent manager saying this is going to be my last season, and then going, all right, we got to go tell Lauren.
We can't do that for you.
I was like, fuck.
Because it's the maker.
Yeah, it's breaking up with your dad. It's like breaking up with your dad. It's like going in and being like, I don't want you to, I'm leaving.
Yeah.
And
it's not just, Dad, I'm going off to college.
yeah, it's like,
It's, Dad, I don't need you anymore.
yeah, it was tough.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah.
To change my life.
Yeah.
Thanks for all that.
Yeah, it was hard.
What's
It
that?
It's very cats in the cradle.
Yeah.
It is very cats in the cradle.
Yeah, it's very like.
For real, though.
So I went in and I said like, and I think my agent had prepped him that Bill's looking at houses in LA. He kind of like, my agent
gave him a little
prepped heads up, like Bill's coming in Tuesday, just so you know they're looking at houses in LA, but he wants to come in and talk to you Tuesday. So he came in and Lauren was very Lauren. Like he started talking about something else. He just started talking about something going on with somebody else, and I just sat there shitting my pants, just going like, And then he went, so you're looking at a house in LA? I go, yeah, I'm going to move to California. And I remember he just went like that.
Yeah.
And then he went, well, we're good. We'll always be good. And how was that? He went, we'll be good. And he goes, and you'll always work. It was the sweetest conversation ever.
Right.
And a lot of people say they cried. I remember Kristen going, oh, I bawled. And Andy was like, oh, I started crying. And I didn't cry. I honestly thought I was going to pass out. It was like the whole room shifted. It was like this weight kind of either fell on me or lifted. I didn't know which was happening. But it was like, I was like, Like I just got really lightheaded and just was like, okay, great. Okay. All right, great. And then it was like really quick, but he was like, we'll always be good, and don't. He was unbelievably sweet. And he said, I remember he did say, wear it for a while, like, let's not tell anybody, let's wear it for a while, and then,
in case you change your mind, he's probably protecting you.
Yeah, but Lauren always knows he can like get you to change your mind, or you'll change your mind. He's had a lot of people go, I'm leaving, and then over the summer they go, I'm gonna come back, and then it's this awkward thing. So he definitely wanted me to, wear it for a while, as he said, and then I went to Dave Iscoff of the New York Times and said, yeah, I'm going to tell you I'm leaving if we do a story on that, and that'll be my announcement the Tuesday of my last week. And Lauren was usually weird about this, like he goes, I got a quote from Lauren, and that was really touching. That like actually really meant a lot to me. That Lauren was like gave a nice quote and everything, and so it could not have gone better. I've known other people that like will tell Lauren like right before the air show of the last show, or like, I'm leaving. They run out.
Bill Hader.
Bye. Yeah. Like that you don't. It's the conversation you try to avoid. And I just remember thinking like, I'm just gonna like, I have to like make myself do it. But I knew it was going to be like the day. It was going to be a week ahead of time, and that was awful.
Yeah.
I just knew it, and I knew he kind of knew. So we'd see each other in the hallway, and it was bad. It was bad, but he was really nice. He was awesome.
Yeah. Well, it has to happen.
Yeah, and I will say, in my time there, I just had a great experience with Lauren. People have different experiences with him. He was nothing but just crazy helpful. One of my first shows, the first Vincent Price we did, I remember he called me in on a Friday night before the air show, Friday night at 11:30, and said, with the writer, and said, I'm going over this Vincent Price sketch. This is our holiday sketch. It's a Thanksgiving show, and we're doing this Vincent Price thing. The joke initially was that Vincent Price was Vincent Price from the characters from his movies. Like he was kind of evil, he was being mean to everybody, and it was like very much like put down humor of people as they came in and stuff. And Lauren said, why would anybody go on this show if he's gonna just be mean to them? And we were like, it's just funny, And he goes, this has no logic to it at all. He goes, what would work better is if he wants to have a good show, and these people come in and they're assholes and they're drunk. Now you're being funny and they're being funny. You're letting the other people be funny, and now everything's good. So you have like a logic to it. And he walked me through. He goes, now there should be 2 jokes per page. This whole page has no jokes. So you just want, where's the laugh on this page? Just show me where the laugh is on this page, And I kind of read, and I couldn't tell him where the laugh was because it was all attitude,
right?
it was such a huge learning experience. And the writer I was with was a little like, I remember he was kind of pissed off, but I was like, it was like this gate unopened. I was like, oh, I get it now. He's like, no, things have to have a logic to it. You can't just like go in and just fuck around. It's got to have this logic. And so
Structure.
And I remember him saying, he's like, yeah, sketches aren't A, J, X, Z. It's A, B, C, D, E, F, G. You got to like take people through their paces, and and it's a sketch. It's not a painting. It's not a perfect thing. It's a sketch. So just like hit these things out, make it broad, nice strokes, and get in and out. And I was like, okay, yeah, no, that makes total sense. And just him telling me that, we went back to my office and we wrote that full page rewrite in like less than an hour. Just banged it out. Like I immediately knew what he was talking about, and like saw it and got it and like went and did it. And so that's what I mean. Like we always had a really good relationship.
That's good to hear.
Yeah. I think also I just didn't like bother him that much.
That must have been it.
I think that must have been it too. I was never like, can you give me some money?
Didn't John Hamm end up doing the James Mason on one of
Well,
those?
that was a great thing. He was Dean Martin, and at Dress, and Lauren brought us in and said, he brought me in before. He goes, now, I think if you're going to do Dean Martin, you have to like kind of kill it as Dean Martin. And John and I have been talking, and his Dean Martin is not that great. So could you do maybe James Mason? And I go, can you do James Mason? And John was like, I think so. So if you watch it, it's James Mason doing Dean Martin jokes. It's because we didn't have time to rewrite it. So it's him talking about being drunk and pissing himself in the car.
Patty.
Yeah. He's like, I pissed myself in the car on the way over, and all this stuff. And it's all, if you watch that and imagine it's said as Dean Martin, it makes like a little bit more sense, but we took out like the Rat Pack references and things like that. But we didn't have a chance to like fully rewrite all the jokes, so it's him basically doing Dean Martin jokes. But John Hamm, talking about being thrown into a situation, and he fucking just nailed it.
Yeah.
Like, fearless. Was like, all right, just went out, did it. It was awesome. Yeah. And now everyone has their, it's funny when you meet new people and they're like, everyone has a Lauren impression. I was like, the maintenance people do Lauren. Like everyone on 8th floor and 17th floor, everybody, the woman, like, cleaning up our trash.
Craft service
is like, Lauren was just here and he was like, do you have the coffee with the, you know what I mean? Like, everyone does Lauren. We were doing a bit, I know I did this on another thing, but we keep doing a bit of Lauren name dropping serial killers. Did you hear that? No. Oh, because Lauren, John Solomon and I started doing this, and we were laughing so hard because Lauren, he name drops a lot.
Sure. Well, all of his stories involved.
Yeah, he's like Paul and Mick and all that stuff. So we were like, it didn't matter. It was like me and Alec and Marcy flew to. And there was a thing. was that Fred Armisen had a great point about Lauren, is that before he does a name drop, he takes his glasses off and he rubs his eyes
because he's put out.
He's put out.
He has to.
I have to tell you this. So we were doing this. He was like, me and Alec and Marcy flew to Kansas City to try to get BTK killer off death row, and they brought him in and they said, here's BTK, and I go, his name's Dennis. We were doing that. I was at Latanzi with Paul Simon and Jeffrey Dahmer and a little Filipino water boy, and he walked away, and Jeffrey said, I have to go to the bathroom. I said, oh no, of course you do. Shows up later, 2 hours later. Yeah, okay. But we were laughing so hard, and yeah, that was the bit that we keep. That everyone has a Lauren bit, but that was the last season that all season we were just trying to think of new serial killers, new awful people that he would name drop. Yeah, it was fun.
All right, again. Can't thank you enough.
Oh, thank you, man. Thanks for having me.
We'll just do 2 more hours.
Oh, great.
And then
I'm in.
You've got to go. Now, the last thing we do on the show, I don't know if it was in the Phil Hendry or the other things you watch, the guest is asked to play the Larry King game. And it is a simple sign-off. We have you reenact that wonderful moment when Larry hosted his own show on CNN, and before he would go to the phones, sometimes he would stare down the barrel of the camera and share something about himself that no one needed to know. Utterly worthless information about King's things. Why he liked Oreo cookies. Whatever, the more mundane, the better. But it was always very personal, and everyone was just instantly dialed out. That's our favorite moment as designed by our head writer, Jamie. I normally ask the guest for three things. The first one is a bad Larry King impression. If you happen to have whatever Larry King impression you want to do,
I don't know.
but I do normally prefer a bad one, because that is what makes me laugh the hardest. And then, if you stare down the barrel and, as Larry, share something about Larry. And then the last thing is, when you go to the phones, if the name of the city is funny sounding, it won't suck. It won't hurt at all. So when you're ready, there's your camera.
So just a mundane thing, like anything at all?
Anything. It's about Larry, and then go to the phone.
When I go to Dillard's and I look for a different type of footwear, the best kind of footwear fit on a nice Argyle sock. Argyle socks are my favorite kind of socks. They have been since I was a little boy. And I had to see them in my stocking on Christmas morning. Argyle socks. Can't really beat them. Chaunceyville.
Oh, yes. Expected no less
Thank you.
than 100% commitment to nothingness. Now you see the beauty.
Yeah, it's a weird existential hole you fall into.
By the way, just so you know, at a party, going around in a circle and each person doing a Larry King game, you'll be shocked how much fun it actually is. Because people will drift. I remember my first ride on a pterodactyl. Whatever, whatever it is, and then go to the phone. It's kind of. Me and Paul Rudd had a thing like that. We had a thing. I forget what it was called. Ed Burns Grill Boys, where Ed Burns movies. How they always like, hey, listen. It was always guys in a bar talking, and I love Ed Burns. He's a very nice guy, but we always be like, and it was always us like on a grilling. It's like, hey, you talked to that girl? Nah, I haven't talked to that girl. Yeah, she, hey, the pop. Hey, the pop. Hey, the pop. And he would do just Ed Burns, these things like, I'm gonna call that girl, and maybe we'll box with Pop later, right? Okay. Now, who had the double cheese on the front? You always had to yell out the order, and that was the end of your thing. And so Paul and I did that at a barbecue at the Lonely Island guys had. We did that for 3 hours, and it kind of became a thing. And then everybody went away, and it was just me and Paul alone doing that. We will drive a bit into the ground quicker than anybody, and people are just like, it was like, lightning bugs are out, everyone's gone inside, and we're still outside going, hey, Oh, that Larry King one, that was good, man. Oh, fun. All right, man. Thank you so much.
For coming.
Sit there uncomfortably for 45 seconds while I wrap this thing up. You all right, Ken? Take a knee? Everything's
He's
fine.
out.
We're going to take next week off and then come back with, to complete the trifecta. Let's start with Bill Burr, which beget Bill Hader, which begets John Heater. See how that...
Oh, I saw what you did. I'm very excited about it.
Okay. So that'll be on the August 29th?
6th?
Sure. What?
5th?
No.
4th?
No. When we come back with him, it'll be the...
24th.
31st. 24th we're taking off. No, we're taking the 17th off. What's today, the 10th?
Yes.
24th.
We'll be back on the 24th. You should go fuck yourself.
Let's try it.
For those of you wondering, did he just have a stroke? To each and every one of you.
You had it 2 years ago.
You try to see the calendar after a stroke. See if the calendar comes down in front of you. You just want to look at the month. Huh? See how that works out. Fuckhole. I want to thank Kenny Chen. I want to thank Corey Levin, who dropped in with a Stefan. That was fucking awesome. Sam Levine.
My pleasure.
Jamie Fox of the Ambridge Foxes.
How about a hand for our guest? It appeared to me he was not prepped that there would be Stefan ahead of time.
No, he wasn't.
No.
And 3 cheers to you, sir, for not batting an eye.
For cold reading.
That was
thank you.
quite something.
Thank you.
Well, I figured after all the cold reads that Mulaney had slipped into the cue cards.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you're not wrong.
No, I'm very impressed.
We were missing our Jason McIntyre today, who's in the Pittsburgh.
Fuck
Missing?
that guy.
Is that the word?
Missing? I missed him.
He's missing.
We're without. Lamenting. Josh Nagrin out there. Angie Johnson on makeup. Danielle Overland, media maven. And David Mandel, everybody's favorite intern. Oh boy. Harry. Nathaniel. Oh, just all the old, just the worst impressions ever.
Quickly becoming Mitch McConnell with that, by the way.
Yeah, it is.
So good.
Did I tell you my first time on the Tonight Show I was bumped because Sammy Davis Jr. sang 4 songs? 3 songs had never been done on the Tonight Show with Carson. Never been done 3. Sammy did 4. I'm kicking the walls in my dressing room. First time ever. I know there's 65 people I have to call and say, don't watch tonight, I'm not on. Waited my whole life for this, and Sammy, that fuck. And I'm in the dressing room, I'm gonna fucking skull fuck him, I'm gonna pop out his good eye. And he stops in the dressing room and says, I am so sorry. You kids with the whole shakunk. That's a quote. And he became my hero there forevermore. You kids with the whole shakunk. Yeah. All right. John Heater, the 24th. Until then, and as always, get out of my face.